Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we are live. We go live every single Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. I know it's the off-season, but that's not going to change. If you're looking for free Raiders videos every single day, make sure you click that subscribe button. I promise you this, I will be here every single Tuesday. I'm telling you what, man, we got a jam-packed show. The Raiders, they did a lot of things today. They made a lot of things officially official. On top of that, let go of some coaches. They brought somebody in the front office. We'll talk about all of the news here on today's episode. Then we're going to get into some, let's just call them juicy rumors. The amount of times I've been asked, Mitch, should the Raiders go get Marcus Mariota? Should the Raiders trade for Kupp? Should the Raiders, draft a quarterback in the first round? All of that will be discussed here on today's show. And then, if you didn't see the video that I put out earlier this morning, it was around quarterbacks that Chip Kelly could potentially want, maybe in free agency. I don't know about y'all. I want the Raiders to draft a quarterback this year. So then I figured I'm going to break down the top 10 quarterbacks, and I have them ranked in a certain way of which ones I think are the most likely that the Raiders could potentially get for Kelly. And then I did a segment last week that I had a lot of people tell me that they liked the top 5 free agents on defense for Patrick Graham. So we're going to do that exact same thing here today for the Raiders on offense with Chip Kelly. If anybody's got any questions, any comments here on today's show, we already have over 530 people tuned in. Shout out to the nation. You can use hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. Get those questions up on the show, because when you do that, you get them right over here. Thanks to my guy, Chugs. So go down, get in the comments section. Which quarterback do you want the Raiders to draft to pair with Chip Kelly? We know that the offensive coordinator is extremely important. Hence, Luke Getsy. Hence, the guy calling plays in Josh McDaniels. But not only do you have to find the right coordinator, you got to find the right quarterback. I don't want a Gardner Minshew. I don't want a Jimmy Garoppolo. I want somebody that gives us an actual shot of winning football games this season and beyond. So I got to know, which quarterback do you want the Raiders to draft? We're going to give some shout-outs here on today's show. I see Ren's going to go with Cam Ward. Y'all know I love Cam Ward. Dart or Howard from Darren. Tim Cobb says Jaxson Dart down below. Isaiah, what up, my man? Jack says Dart. Lewis says Dart. I am seeing right now lots and lots of Jaxson Darts, which I'm still trying to figure out why there's all the hype around him all of a sudden. I do anticipate that he's going to get drafted way earlier than I ever imagined it even humanly possible. But I will admit this. Jaxson Dart with Chip Kelly, I am more interested in Jaxson Dart now than I was before the Raiders hired Chip Kelly, because to me, Dart needs somebody that's a great offensive mind, needs somebody that can implement a system, needs somebody that can simplify sometimes a very complicated game, especially at the NFL level. Jaxson Dart is somebody that I like more now than I did before. Let's go to Tommy Martinez. What up, my man? If Shedeur is not there at 6th, draft Will Johnson, and I thought he was saying draft Will Howard at 6 and then draft Dart in the 2nd round. I was going to say, Tommy, I don't know what you're drinking, man, but I'm kind of good on that. To me, if you're the Raiders, you got to go best player available at number 6. And again, everything that the Raiders do in the draft, it 100% depends on what they're able to go out and execute their plan in free agency. But if you told me right now we were able to get Will Johnson at 6, Jaxson Dart in the 2nd, again, Dart in the 2nd round is still a little bit rich for my blood, but I don't think he's, I think he's going to go, and Chugs just said he thinks he's going to go day 1. And I'm a believer of, where there's smoke, there's fire, and you guys probably joke because I've said that once or twice on the show, but when you think about how quickly the trajectory of Jaxson Dart is in his draft stock, I think that there's a reason behind it, and I don't know what exactly it is yet, but it's, if I had to guess, a lot of NFL GMs probably think a lot higher of Dart than what a lot of other people thought originally. Let's go to Blink. What's up, Blinky? Celebrating my birthday with the nation. Let's go. Love literally all the hires we've done this past week. I put out a tweet, I guess, and I put something out on Instagram that I said I could not be more proud of the Raiders this offseason acting like a smart franchise. I am proud in Tom Brady making a lot of the right hires. I am proud in John Spytek. I'm proud in Mark Davis listening, because Mark's had people in his ear before, and Mark hasn't always done the right things. The Raiders are doing the right things, and they're acting like a smart franchise. Hell, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, and Patrick Graham. Those names and those names alone is already an improvement from what we had last season. The fact that this is February 4th and I already feel like that we are making big leaps and bounds as a better team is a great, great sign. So, Blinky, happy birthday to you. And you know what? Blinky, are you trying to go to the big game? If you are, spam those HBDs down below. I'll tell you one place that makes every day feel like my birthday because I got a big booty. Last-minute tickets, that flash deal, views from your seat, lowest price guaranteed. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. If you do download the Game Time app, check out the Game Time picks. I don't know about y'all. I would love to go see Luka in a Lakers game right now, and I know those tickets are going to be a little bit pricey, but if you do go the all-in price, download the Game Time app, save $20. It's going to be able to pay for a beer or two, but to be able to watch Luka in a Lakers jersey, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of intrigued. Also, the big game is right around the corner, and if you plan on hanging out with Chugs and I for it, do you plan on watching the big game with Chugs and I? Let's go Eagles, F the Chiefs. The refs, by the way, saying that we don't do things for Kansas City. Okay. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Make sure that you use code CLNS. All you got to do is pick more or less. We already know that Patrick Mahomes is essentially, you're getting one right off the jump because he's going to throw for more than one passing yard, which means all you got to do is find one other player from this game on the Eagles side because you got to pick one player from one team, another player at least from another team, and you're already going to get Mahomes. So you might as well take that. You take the more there, and then maybe you pair it with Saquon Barkley, 115.5 rushing yards. You can go more, you can go less. I'll admit this. Kansas City this season has been, I want to say, a top 3, top 5 team against running backs in fantasy football. It's not always the same in rushing, and all we're doing here is looking at rushing. But there's the other part of this, which is why I love Prize Picks. If you pick the more here, okay? If you pick the more here, the entire game you're going to root for Saquon. Every time he touches the ball, which already every time Saquon touches the ball, you hold your breath. You're going to be holding your breath like you're going through a tunnel when you were a kid, trying to hold it all the way through the entire game. This is going to be electric, and I also want to have a good time and win some money. F it, I'm going to go with the more here on this one. We got 870 people tuned in right now to the Raiders Report, and I got a super coming in from my man, little Flapjack. Chip Kelly hire makes me think we might be shooting for Genty at 6. Best player available in their position with Bowers worked last year. It could work with Genty here. I'm going to be real. I actually feel less confident that the Raiders would be interested in taking Genty at 6 now because with Chip Kelly, they're going to want to run the football. No doubt about it. And I would say the bigger hire here for Raider fans to say Genty at 6 should actually be Pete Carroll's kid, Brennan Carroll, who just got hired, like 2 days ago to be the offensive line coach, and he is somebody that really believes in pounding the rock, really truly believes in running the football. Like that hire tells me maybe Genty at 6. However, though, best player available when you look at what the Raiders could potentially do, I think they would be a little bit more inclined to either add an offensive lineman or Will Johnson, best player available all around. If Genty's the best guy on the board, they're going to potentially take him. Like, you go a lot of different routes here. Thoughts on Carroll's son as the O-line coach, Ventrax? Shout out to our newest member of Mount Raidermore. Spam those Ventrax down below. It looks pretty good, don't it? I'm okay with the move, right? I was not crazy about the James Craig move last season because I didn't know exactly how it was going to work. And the fact that now we're going to go with another, power zone scheme is how I would imagine the Raiders are going to do it. Yep, Chip Kelly, they did that. The official statement by the Raiders came out maybe 30 minutes ago, but Schefter, I saw, just put it out the other official. I'm okay with it, right? The O-line coach is an important role, but what's more important about the offensive line coach is that we have our offensive line that all makes the exact same damn sense because last year we had power offensive linemen in JPJ, a finesse lineman in Andre James, and then you're trying to do all these different things with different players and different skill sets. with the offensive line coach we have, I want to go out and I want to get maulers, big effing dudes. We're going to talk about some offensive linemen that I would target here if I was the Raiders. So how about this question? Because this is one that I spoke about in the video that I did yesterday. Myles Garrett requested a trade. And Diana Rossini put out there, she was like, a GM just texted me saying, oh, man, it would be crazy if the Raiders traded for Myles Garrett and paired him with Max Crosby. My question to you is this, because to me, the only way that you're going to be able to get this trade done is if you're the Raiders and you give up the number 6 overall pick. Would you do this trade? Give me a yes, give me a no. If you want to know my answer to this, it is in the video that I released yesterday, bright and early, or not bright and early. It's probably about, like 6:30 p.m. Eastern time yesterday is probably right around when that video went out. I'm seeing a lot of yeses down below, which Matthias says yes. Dale says no. Venthrax says no. Evil Mitch says yes. Richard Black says hell yes. Seeing a lot of yeses down there. I would say this, though. You also got to pay them. So I would say to the people that want to do this trade, and that's totally fine, that means, like, would you rather have Myles Garrett and Max Crosby? Because that means you're going to spend probably close to $260 to $270 million at the edge position. If you're okay with that, that just means you're going to miss out on a lot of other players in free agency. Like, I would say you're probably able to go out and get Myles Garrett. You extend Max Crosby. You might be able to bring in 1 or 2 other guys and then a quarterback on top of that, where if you don't bring in Myles Garrett, I think you'd probably be able to bring in close to 8 to 10 potential starters because Garrett's going to be about $35 million a year. If you're the Raiders, do you want $35 million another edge rusher, or do you want to use that $35 million per year and invest that into, let's say, bringing back Robert Spillane, Trevon Merrick, Adam Butler, Malcolm Kuntz, and then you could also go out and sign like a Chris Godwin. Maybe you go out and sign a Bobby Wagner. I know Myles Garrett is a stud. No doubt about it. I would actually be curious to see if it even costs more than this. But we got 1,000 people here right now. And again, huge shout out to everybody. Got another question coming in here from Leon. What up, Leon? What's up, Mitch? Luka Doncic got traded, then go trade Max Crosby to the Detroit Lions. My comparison that I gave to people, because again, Chugs and I live down here in Dallas. And if I was a Lakers fan, I would be ecstatic because this is probably the worst trade in NBA history. The Lakers are getting somebody who's 25 years old and is a MVP. But I'm saying, like, they got rid of him because he was out of shape and he was bad. If he's bad, it's still being a top 5 caliber player in the NBA. If he does get motivated, it's going to be wild. My point is this, though. The Dallas Mavericks, listen to this, lost 1 million followers on Instagram after the trade. My comparison was this. Imagine if Max Crosby was the quarterback of the Raiders and went to the Super Bowl the year before, and then the following year, the Raiders trade him, and the person that trades him is Josh McDaniels, because the owner for the Mavericks fans hate the guy. Like, the way that Raider fans think of Josh McDaniels is the way Mavericks fans think of, his name's Nico Harris, right? Nico Harris. That's how they think of him. Like being down here, Nico Harrison, the way that people talk about this trade, I'm telling you right now, when I got my fiance Alex asking me stuff every single day about it, like, that tells me the importance of everything going on. Max Crosby and what he means as a Raider is what Luka meant as a Mav. Would you still be a fan if the Raiders trade Max Crosby? Yes or no? Because I know a lot of people that are like, I'm not rooting for the Mavs anymore, and it kind of blows my mind.
Harrison Graham, who's been a Mavs fan his whole life, said he would not watch the Mavs if they made the finals this year.
And I don't believe him. I'm going to be honest. I don't believe anybody that ever says that. It's the same group of people that are, oh, I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl because I don't want to watch Mahomes anymore. Grow up. Let's just watch the game. You're going to watch it. You're a sports fan. Of course, we would still be Raiders fans if they trade a Max Crosby. And I think that that's another example of, womb to the tomb, you bleed silver and black. Raiders fans are cut from a different cloth, no doubt about it. But at the same time, man, oh man, it would really, really sting. And I'm glad I see nothing but yeses and hell yeses down below. Let's go to one of my favorites, Nabman. Not sure we have been this aggressive in the offseason before in my entire lifetime. Stoked. Several mocks I did full out trade back all the way back to 18. Won it the next time. Netted us 18 picks in the draft. Lots next year as well. The only part that I would say you got to be careful doing the 18 picks is because then you have to pay those 18 players. And for an organization that's trying to win right now, because this is a team that's trying to win right now, you don't pay Chip Kelly $6 million, making him the highest paid OC in the NFL. You don't go out and hire a 74-year-old head coach in Pete Carroll if you're not trying to win right away. So I have always been a big fan of, trading back if there's not anybody there for a lot of the OGs that watch this show. But I actually don't think that the Raiders, they have 10 picks right now. I'm going to bet that on draft night they finish with less than 10 picks because they're going to be aggressive and they're going to try to move up and they're going to go out and try to get their players instead of hoping that certain guys fall to them. So I know what you did here, but I actually don't think that it makes as much sense. If you're going to be aggressive, then you try to make those trades and you try to go get more picks. That's usually what teams try to do. I like the idea, though. I'd be curious to see it. What up, Raider? Max needs to stay a Raider, has the heart of this team. And I agree with you, where if you're a guy like Pete Carroll and John Spytek, and at your intro press conference, you sit up there and you say, I want guys that love football, and I want to build this team with guys that love football and guys that have that, I'll call it Tom Brady mentality of, I'm going to be the hardest working mother effer in the building. I might not have all the athletic ability that a lot of these guys have, but I'm going to be a problem. And I mean, that's exactly what Max is. And if you don't give Max Crosby an extension, and if you don't keep him around, there's going to be other players down the road that go, man, if they did Max like that, and they did Khalil Mack like that, why the hell would I ever want to go play for the Raiders and try to sign a long-term deal there? Big players want to know that when they sign a place that they don't have to worry about it because they're people just like you and me, right? They want to be able to buy a home. They want to be able to settle down. They want to have a life in certain areas. And I think not extending Max Crosby would be a severely, severely bad business decision, not just this year, but definitely in the long haul. Let's go to Breeze. What up, Breezy? Max to the Packers. I don't see why. Again, Max to me is not going to leave. Max loves the hire of Pete Carroll. Max couldn't the Pete Carroll hire, I would say Max is on a level of happiness here. John Spytek, Pete Carroll, let's say it's here. The fact that the Raiders were able to bring back Patrick Graham and Rob Leonard, and here's another one, the Raiders' strength and conditioning coach, okay? Slate. You guys know who Slate is? That's like Crosby's right-hand man. The fact that those guys are staying, I'm telling you right now, Max ain't going to go anywhere because also no NFL team is going to give the Raiders what they want. If Myles Garrett is right now being rumored to go for less than 2 first-round picks, if Max were to hit the open market, he'd be the second best edge according to all NFL teams. I would take Max over Myles because Max means more to the nation than what Myles Garrett was. Though, if you were to ask 32 NFL GMs, I think everybody would say Garrett is the better player. So for Max hitting the open market, I don't think it's going to happen simply because Max will make less money. The Raiders won't get nearly the return on their investment that they want. And for Green Bay, I think you're only saying it because Josh Jacobs went there and Rich Bisaccia is there. Let's go to Blinky. What's your opinion on the Mark Thews hire? Well, one, I did put out a video on it a little bit earlier today, and I'm going to talk about it here coming up in about 5 to 10 minutes, Blinky, so I don't want to give away too many of my ideas. But I knew as soon as Thews ended up getting hired, I knew Raider Nation was going to be a little bit worried about one of his buddies back in the old days. We'll talk about it here, though, in a little bit, because that's basically how I'm going to start off our first show. Noah, would Justin Fields be okay with being a bridge quarterback? Of course he would. He was already... I think if you're Fields legitimately, if you could tell me right now who's the number one offensive coordinator that if I was Justin Fields, I would want to work with in terms of actually also having a chance to be a starting QB, right? Because if you were to say, hey, Justin, who do you want to work with? He's probably going to pick a Sean McVay or an Andy Reid. But let's talk about jobs that he actually has a chance to start at. Do you want to stay in Pittsburgh, which is an option? or would you want to go play in Chip Kelly's offense? If I'm Justin Fields and I look at what that Ohio State offense looked like this year with Mariota, if I look like what this offense looked like with Will Howard, what the offense used to look like back then with Mariota, I mean, you can look at everything that Kelly has done, and I can make an argument that it might be one of the most best systems possible out there for Fields. But, I mean, at the same time, money's going to talk. Fields is going to want to get paid, and he has an opportunity to play for a year or two. And if he goes out there and does his thing, who knows? He might get himself a brand new contract with another NFL team out there. Coming up here on the show, we're going to get into the latest news and rumors. I see a super coming in from Breeze. Breeze, you want to get to that one now or after the first cut? I got you. Breeze, we'll get to this one before the first cut. It says, in all honesty, who do you think we are drafting at 6? It depends what we do in free agency. If the Raiders, what? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things, right? If we're saying we're going to go best player available, to me, the best player available most likely to be there at 6, I think is Will Johnson. I think it's the cornerback from Michigan. It's a need that we have. Pete Carroll's drafted secondary players in the past, has put a really big emphasis on that. If you want to go defensive tackle because we don't bring back Adam Butler and we're looking to just add another piece there to the middle, and I think Mason Graham is an absolute freak of nature at defensive tackle. If you want to go offensive line, if they don't bring back, if they don't extend Colton Miller, then you're looking at the kid from LSU. Genty could be an option there. I don't think Abdul Carter is going to fall anymore because I could see the Browns taking him now with the Myles Garrett trade, but it's really just going to come down to what the Raiders do. Because if the Raiders, let's say, get a quarterback, they fill out all their offensive line needs, and they don't have any, let's say it's crazy, you don't have any offensive needs going into the draft. Because then I'm going to sit up here and go, we got to look at defense, If they go all defense in free agency, I'm going to sit up here and go, we got to go offense. It's going to change a lot. What up, William? Myles Garrett to the Raiders. I don't know if that's his twin brother. I don't know which Miles that is. I know it's, I'm kidding. But, at the same time, I would say the most likely destination for Myles Garrett is either A, the Washington Commanders, B, the Detroit Lions. I would say those are the top 2 destinations right now. You think he's an Eagle? Maybe. I mean, Howie Roseman's aggressive enough.
Brandon Graham, don't know what he's going to be. He's veteran, hurt.
Sure.
Josh Sweat is a free agent.
Yep.
They're going to try to get off of Bryce Huff. They need an edge rusher. And who's the one person that's always willing to deal first and second round picks?
Yep.
It's Howie Roseman.
I think the Eagles are a good team, but I think the Lions and the Commanders are going to be extremely aggressive this offseason. Ben Thrack, why not AOC as a bridge? He's cheap and the players like him. It's because he doesn't have any upside. And you don't bring in an offensive coordinator. Like Chip Kelly was making $2 million per year at Ohio State. Kelly's not taking 3 times the amount of money, and the Raiders aren't offering Chip Kelly 3 times the amount of money to go with Aiden O'Connell again. And I feel like people always just hate me because I'm always such a Debbie Downer on Aiden. But, we got to look at Aiden as a Honda Civic, and he can be a reliable vehicle. And he's going to be in the NFL for a long, long time. But you're not doing everything that the Raiders are doing to roll with Aiden next season. I don't mind the idea of Aiden as a bridge, but you also got to consider then you're okay winning less than 7 or 8 games, right? I would say if Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback of the Raiders this season, you're hoping for 7 to 8 wins. That's just not going to cut it this year for Mark, for Tom Brady, for this team. They're trying to go out and they're trying to win right away. And the fact that you're able to get a cheaper quarterback, an upgrade, right? Russell Wilson's an upgrade. Justin Fields is an upgrade. Sam Darnold's an upgrade. Maybe you trade for an upgrade in Geno. It costs more money. But in the NFL, this is going to be a team this year. They go, I'm going to spend the extra money and go out and get a better QB. Where, the problem with Gardner last year was, I don't even know if Gardner was an upgrade over Aiden, right? And this year, you got to make sure that you go out and get an upgrade. But I actually don't even think Aiden's going to be on the team this season. U.S. Marine, what up, dude? Pick up Sam Darnold, draft Travis Hunter, keep AOC as a backup. I would say the more likely scenario for the Raiders, if If you want the Raiders to keep Aiden, it means you don't want the Raiders to draft a quarterback. Because I'm telling you right now, there is a 100% chance that they're going to sign a quarterback in free agency. They're going to move on from Gardner Minshew. They're going to sign somebody. What they are doing right now and what Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Tom Brady, Chip Kelly, you got to look at everybody that's in that room. Greg Olson as a quarterback coach, they are going to bring in a bridge QB, a veteran. So if you want Aiden on the team, it means you don't want them to draft a quarterback because they will, I'm telling you, sign a quarterback in free agency. It's going to happen. It's an absolute lock. Got a few more supers coming in from Noah and Breeze. We'll get to those after the first segment. So reminder, if you want to get those questions in, if you have something, hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat to skip the line. So Santana and Breeze, I get to your supers after the first segment here on today's show. Ren, Darren, I see ya. Evil Mitch. Again, I think people love Aiden because he's such a great dude and he's a great story. And you want to be able to root for somebody like that. But I'll also say, when you watch Aiden and you also look at Gardner Minshew, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, and that's what you're comparing him to, Aiden is by far the best quarterback we've had the last 2 years. But then when you look at Aiden compared to everybody else in the AFC West, so you look at him, everybody else in the NFL, you can't go into the season knowing that you have arguably the worst quarterback in the NFL. We've done it for 2 years in a row. You just can't do it again. Not if you're serious about winning. If the Raiders would have come out and said, we're okay doing a rebuild, we're okay building up stock and picks for a year or two, then rolling with Aiden O'Connell as a bridge quarterback makes all the sense in the world at $1.2 million. Like, Aiden at 1.2 is a great option to be a backup QB in the NFL. And I would be okay with Aiden as a backup QB in the NFL. I really, really, truly would. Think it's what good teams and good organizations do. But because I'm so confident the Raiders are going to draft a QB, and I'm so confident that the Raiders are going to try to bring in a quarterback in free agency, I don't know if Aiden's going to be having that value. And there's going to be other NFL teams, the Patriots are going to be one, that will at least put in something for Aiden, because there's already rumors that they're going to trade Joe Milton. Chugs is being a little bit of a stickler here, and he said, we got to get to 300 likes before we go into the very first show here. We got 1,300 people watching. My guy Ron Raspberry is saying, smash that like button. Ron wants y'all to get to 500. I'm going to say, let's get to 300, because I do always say this. I will take 300 Raiders fans up against 1,000 any other fans. When you watch the movie Spartan, in my head, like that's how I feel, or the movie 300. And those Spartans, it's like, what is your profession? And the Raiders fans know what their profession is. We did just hit 300 likes. Much love to everybody out there. Ron, appreciate you, man. Big luck. I see you. I got you. Coming up, let's get into the news that happened today and some juicy, juicy rumors. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, the Silver and Black made a lot of moves on their front office and at the coaching staff positions. We're going to talk about who was let go. We're going to talk about who was brought in. And then we're going to talk some juicy, juicy rumors. I mean, Marcus Mariota, should we go out and get him? Should we trade for Cooper Kupp? And at the very end, is there a certain quarterback that it sounds like could end up sliding to Las Vegas? Let's first get into the news that happened early this morning. Mark Thews has been hired by the Raiders as the Senior Vice President of Football Operations and Strategy. He did work with John Spytek from 2013 to 2015 with the Denver Broncos. And as soon as I saw the Raiders hired Thews, I knew for a fact people were going to go, oh no. Thews, for those of you that do not know, was high school buddies with Josh McDaniels. But at the same time, and this coming from me, we know that Tom Brady and McDaniels are friends. They had a lot of wins together. They won a lot of Super Bowls together. But don't look at it like this. Look at it more as somebody that Tom Brady trusts, somebody that's worked with John Spytek, and they're just bringing this into front office. They want stability. You could also look at it as we're stealing somebody away from the Denver Broncos. Also, the Raiders let go several different coaches today on both the offense and the defensive side of the football. Cadillac Cornell Williams, the running back coach, see you later. Edgar Bennett might actually be the most surprising one on this list. He is a very well-respected coach and has been a part of the Raiders organization for a long time. He's not being brought back. Mike Caldwell, linebacker coach, one of the better linebacker coaches in the NFL. Ricky Manning Jr. really shocked me as well because I thought, due to the fact that Manning has got ties with Pete Carroll, was on a staff with him before, and the fact that Ricky Manning also was at the press conference for Pete Carroll, I really thought that he was going to be hanging around. Fred Walker, assistant quarterback coach, he is also no longer. Those are the 5 coaches that the Raiders moved on from. If you didn't know that, hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications because I did also put out Shorts, which is a 60-second clip of that news 4 hours ago. Maybe for some of you, depending on when you watch this, 5-6 hours from now. If you're a crazy Raiders fan that wants to know everything going on around this team, subscribe. I promise you, we got you covered. Now, let's get into the fun part of the show. I want to talk some juicy rumors, and one of the reasons why I started doing this show and I created at the time, the Chucky Heads, now we have the Just Win Babies, was because when people would ask me questions, I would always try to scale it of how likely I thought it was going to happen. So should the Raiders sign Mariota? Should the Raiders trade Cooper Kupp? And could Shedeur Sanders fall to pick number 6 where Las Vegas doesn't have to trade up to go get the Colorado quarterback? So at this show, I'm going to tell you how likely all this is to happen. Let's go to the first one, though. Should the Raiders sign Mariota? And this is a name that as soon as Chip Kelly got hired, I had a lot of people asking me, and I saw a lot of people talking about it. Should the Raiders go out and sign Mariota? Absolutely not. This one is tuck rule, tuck that. It does not make any sense for the Silver and Black to go get him. I understand that Mariota is a free agent in the year of 2025. And I know that their days back at Oregon, Kelly and Mariota went together like peanut butter and jelly. And hell, I can remember when I first started getting into this whole podcasting biz, I talked about Chip Kelly with Philadelphia, if he was able to go out and get Mariota. Like, these are all conversations that, I'm not going to lie, makes it feel a little nostalgic because I can remember sitting up in the attic in a closet in my parents' attic recording and talking about it. But here's the thing. Signing Mariota doesn't make any sense for this offseason for the Las Vegas Raiders. I will admit, when you watch a little bit of the tape last season on Marcus, he did impress me at times. And Mariota, to me, was the proof of how good, and I shouldn't say the proof, but one of the cherries on top, if you will, of how good Cliff Kingsbury and how good Jaden Daniels, that tandem was, and then the fact that Mariota could also put it together. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to get into this one, and I want y'all to let me know what your thoughts are down below, because that's what this show's about. I know that I'm the one that you guys listen to. I'm the one that's up here, but we've also been able to make a lot of really cool relationships through doing this show. So, should the Raiders sign Mariota? Give me a yes, give me a no. You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. While that ad is playing, scroll on down and give me your answer. I am still saying that no, it doesn't make any sense for the Raiders to sign Mariota. One, there's a lot of upgrades and better options out there on the open market. But I know that the Raiders are going to sign a quarterback this offseason. And they're going to sign somebody, and they're going to bring him in to help a rookie develop. The fact that Mariota isn't a starter, that would mean to me then that the Raiders would sign Mariota. That means you also then have to sign a starter, and it doesn't make any sense to do that. I know the Raiders have Aiden O'Connell. I would rather have the Raiders keep Aiden than sign Mariota. That's how serious I am, because Aiden at 1.2 is a better option than whatever the hell you're going to have to pay Mariota. Gardner Minshew, hasta la vista, Desmond Ridder, he ain't coming back. Carter Bradley, not coming back. Signing Mariota means that you also have to sign another bridge quarterback that can be a starter this season because Mariota's not good enough to start. And signing Mariota to be a backup doesn't make any sense because if that's our plan, you already have Aiden as a backup potentially, and we're still going to draft another quarterback. Let's go to the next juicy rumor here on today's show. Cooper Kupp is going to be traded by the Los Angeles Rams. And of course, should the Raiders go out and trade for Kupp? You know what? I'm going to tell you my answer here in just a moment. But first, I got to show some love to our sponsor, Game Time. I'm somebody where as soon as I walk into a store, I'm going to the clearance rack, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm a man that likes a good deal. And if you like a good deal, download the Game Time app. Create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. If you're wondering, Mitch, what the heck is Game Time? It's the best place to get the best price tickets, and that lowest price is going to be there guaranteed. Also, Game Time, they have this new feature called the Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals, so you don't waste time searching through a bunch of seats and a bunch of tickets. If you're trying to go to a city this weekend, if you're trying to go to the big game, download the Game Time app, create an account. If you're trying to go to I'm telling you, I know a lot of people are out West Coast. I would love to go watch Luka in the Lakers. Like, one of my things that I want to do before I die, I know we're getting kind of dark here, I want to go to major sporting arenas all over the world. The Lakers, that's an arena that I absolutely want to go to. And now, it might be even the better time to do it. Download the Game Time app, create an account, $20 off with code CHATSPORTS. If you're wondering what time is it, it's time for you to download Game Time today. That link's going to be down in the comments. It's going to be down in the description of today's show. Let's go to another thing here. Should the Raiders trade for Cooper Kupp? This one, I know I tweeted out that Kupp's going to look good in silver and black, but I actually meant that more of because I don't think that you're going to have to trade for him. To me, I could see the Rams having to end up cutting Cooper Kupp, which is why I'm going to sit up here and go, tuck rule, tuck that. The Raiders should not go out and trade for the Rams wide receiver. And it's already been known. Kupp's put it out there. The Rams have put it out there that they're going to shop him this offseason. He's 31 years old and has struggled with injuries the past 2 seasons after he had that incredible run with Matthew Stafford. Kupp also, though, I think could be released because I just don't know what organization is going to trade for Kupp's contract. If you could tell me right now that he's going to play 15 games or plus, I think it's then actually not that bad of a contract to take on. But I don't believe that he's going to be able to play 15 games just because of all the minor injuries that he's had. On top of that, I think Sean McVay is an extremely smart head coach. For McVay to wean out Cooper Kupp at the end of the season tells me that he knows something that maybe a lot of us don't know. And then right now for these trades, I think it's because, again, he knows something that we don't know. I will say this. If the Raiders made a trade, it's probably only going to cost you a 5th or a 6th round pick. If you do make the trade, it would cost the Silver and Black about $20 million in 2025, and then it would cost you technically $19.9 million. He does, though, have $0 million guaranteed. So if you wanted to bring in Kupp for, let's say, a 6th-round pick, the Raiders have 3 of them, then you're paying him $20 million for this season and this season alone. If the Raiders traded for Kupp, that would be the plan, and then you just cut him in 2026. He's put up unbelievable numbers in years past. These last 3 years are still, like, they're not bad years, right? Like, they're not bad numbers. When you're putting up over close to 59 catches at least, you're putting up over 700 yards, you're finding pay dirt, like, those are good seasons. It's not a receiver that you're going to pay $20 million to at that age. And the other reason why, if you told me right now, I got to pay Cooper Kupp either $20 million and give up draft capital, or I'd rather just go out and sign a Chris Godwin instead, a younger receiver, and I get it. Godwin's also coming off an injury, but somebody that was drafted by John Spytek, somebody that won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. If we're looking at spending $20 million, I'd say let's just go spend that money on a younger, better version and a Chris Godwin, a sure-handed receiver. So if you're on board, if you see people going out there going, we need to add a veteran receiver, we need to go out there and add Cooper Kupp, I don't disagree with the idea of us need to go out and adding a veteran receiver. But to me, I want to save the draft picks, and I want to go find a younger, healthier version, quite frankly, I think a better version, and somebody that's got all the ties, like I mentioned, in John Spytek and Tom Brady. If you like the idea of signing Chris Godwin and you think it's smarter than trading for Cooper Kupp, smash that like button right now. Let's go to the last juicy rumor here on today's show. Shedeur Sanders. Is he going to fall to pick number 6 in the NFL draft? I'm going to give this one 2 just win babies. I'm going to say people are talking. The amount of smoke around Shedeur Sanders right now falling in the draft. Because here's the other thing of why rumors are important. Somebody's got to think, why are all these rumors all of a sudden about Jaxson Dart stock going up? If Jaxson Dart's stock's going up, it means somebody else's stock is going down. To me, I would say the consensus top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL draft right now, For the NFL draft, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and now Jaxson Dart is the number 3. I think a lot of the hype around Dart starting to go up because people are starting to fall out of love a little bit with Sanders. And there's no doubt, there's a lot of rumors connecting Sanders to the Raiders, Tom Brady, all of those connections are there. And he is viewed as the number 2 quarterback in the draft. However, though, there's a lot of teams that want to go best player available. And I'm somebody that wants to also go best player available. There's no way that Shedeur is best player available at 6. Quite frankly, I don't think Shedeur is best player available even in like the top 15 picks overall. But here's the other reason. I wonder if Shedeur falls to 6 because Deion has already made it clear. He wants Shedeur to be a Raider. The moment Deion said, I want the Raiders job, that should have told all 31 other NFL teams, man, if there's going to be a little bit of a risk taking Shedeur because in today's day and age, players have a lot of power. And if Shedeur says, I want to go play with Tom Brady, I want to play with the Raiders, I don't know how many other teams go out and get him. On top of that, let's talk about the picks in front. You got the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans have said that they want a generation talent. The only person I would say is true generational talent is Travis Hunter. However, though, when you look at the books, it looks like Cam Ward's the most likely pick at number 1. Number 2 there for the Browns. The fact that Myles Garrett requested a trade, I'm almost going to lock in Abdul Carter there at number 2. The Giants are the wild card. Do the Giants decide to draft Shedeur? Because that's an organization that wants a QB. But if you're the New York Giants, you go, man, we have a lot of other holes. We got a lot of other things going on. Maybe it doesn't make sense to take Sanders at 3. The Patriots, Drake May. The Jags, Trevor Lawrence. The more and more I sit back and I think, I really do. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be on the board at number 6, which that means what do the Raiders decide to do? If the Raiders don't add any quarterbacks in the offseason, Shedeur's probably going to be the pick there at number 6. If the Raiders go out and spend big on somebody like a Sam Darnold, maybe they go out and pay somebody, I don't know, like a Justin Fields. To me, Fields means that they still could draft Sanders. If they go out and they spend big on somebody like Sam Darnold or make a trade for a Matthew Stafford, I don't know if it's going to happen, make a trade for somebody like a Geno Smith, then I don't know if the Shedeur stuff is as likely to happen. But I would say it's a coin flip right now for him to fall to pick number 6. Appreciate everyone tuning into today's news, to today's rumors. Again, should the Raiders sign Mariota? Hell frickin' no. Should the Raiders trade for Cooper Kupp? No, but if you want to spend that money, just go sign Chris Godwin. And is Shedeur Sanders going to fall down to pick number 6? I'd call it right now, heads or tails. Lord Cameron Abbott! Bang! A Tuesday bang! Shout out to Mount Raidermore. I want Fields or Geno for free agency quarterback. They would be a good match with Chip. Hell no on Darnold. He's not a good match and in my opinion is overrated. Go get DK Metcalf. Wide receivers would be perfect. Your thoughts? I do think that Fields could be good with Chip Kelly, but here's the reason why I was so excited when the Raiders hired Kelly. I think any quarterback can succeed in the Chip Kelly system. And I know people are worried about him in his past head coaching experiences, if you will, but you're telling me, because the reason why Chip Kelly failed, and Chip Kelly also won that division his very first year as a head coach with Nick Foles, okay? He was able to win a lot of football games, proved, but then his head got too big. And then he thought that his shit didn't stink. He thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and he just started shipping players off, tried to go cost effective, and he ended up realizing, well, shit, I need good players in order to win football games. When you think about all the problems Kelly had, he had problems because he wasn't great in the locker room. You put the mind of Chip Kelly and the X's and O's on offense with the people's person and somebody like Pete Carroll, and then on the defensive side of the football, you keep Rob Leonard and Patrick Graham. What the Raiders are doing this offseason, I'm telling you, it's unbelievably intelligent. I will say this, though. I disagree with you. I think Sam Darnold is the best fit in free agency for what Chip Kelly is going to try to do for the Raiders. Now, I will admit, Geno's a good fit. The fact that the Raiders also brought in Pete Carroll's kid, running back, previous running back coordinator coach in Seattle, they're going to want to really run the football and pound the rock. You can go a lot of different ways. In terms of a receiver, if you're going to bring in a big-name receiver in a trade, DK is probably the most likely option there, but it's still going to cost you. Like, it's probably going to cost you a third-round pick at minimum, and then you're going to have to pay DK, $25, $26, $27 million per year. And my question to you would be, and to the entire nation, would you give up, let's say, a third-round pick and pay DK Metcalf, let's go, $27 million per year, or would you rather just sign T. Higgins? It's an option, but hey, it's worth a little thinking. Let's go to my man Suave. We got 1,500 people here watching. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like button. Believe it or not, it does help us out quite a bit. And if you're not already subscribed to the Raiders Report, we put out a lot of different content. We shoot our shot a lot on this show. And believe me when I say we're more than a YouTube channel. We've built an amazing community here. If you're looking for Raiders content every day, I got you. If Garrett gets traded, does that mean it more or less like the Browns trade their second round pick? I think you mean the number 2 overall pick. Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like the second round pick? Because I'll answer it both. To me, if the Browns trade Myles Garrett, they're going to get picks on top of that. I think, honestly, if I was a betting man right now and if Myles Garrett were to be traded, I would imagine a team that's trying to win, a team that's a playoff caliber team, does the trade. So it would probably be like a first and a second round pick. If Myles Garrett is not there and they have the opportunity at number 2 to take anybody, I think it's Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter is the best edge rusher. Hell, you can make an argument he's the best player in the draft. I think that you could make the argument. Maybe. I just know Shedeur ain't going there. Let's go to Breeze. Is there any potential we draft Dart? If so, what round do you think? Chugs keeps saying round 1. We'll see. Even to be real, even at pick 37 makes me nervous. And it's just because when I watch Dart tape, I don't love a lot of the things that I see. There's some really good tape on Jaxson, but the reason why I am more on board now with Dart than I was before the Raiders hired Kelly is because if you bring in Dart, he's got to sit for a year or two. He's not ready to play in the NFL, and not many quarterbacks are ready to play in the NFL right away. To me, if you draft Dart, I would sit here and go, he's got to sit for 2 years. That would be up to me. If I could paint my perfect plan right now for the Raiders at QB, I would say you go out and you get a guy like Sam Darnold. You give him a 3-year deal. 2 years of it is like, I don't know, 20 to 25 million per year, and then you can get out of it in that final year, and then you hand the keys to somebody like Jaxson Dart. I'm okay with that idea because Dart has a lot of the athletic ability. He's got a lot of the traits, and he's got some building blocks. His mechanics are bad. His footwork sucks. He's an inconsistent thrower. If you put Chip Kelly, Tom Brady, John Spytek, you put all their great minds together, Pete Carroll, and you work on some of that stuff for 2 years, then Dart can turn out to be a good player. But one of the segments I got coming up here on today's show is me breaking down which quarterbacks I think are the most likely that the Raiders draft for Chip Kelly. What up, Thugador? I see you, my man. Last time Chiefs played the Eagles in the Super Bowl, Chugs crashed out. I'm hoping we don't see any corruption again. Really? See, I don't even remember. I remember you were mad, obviously, but what's crazy is I don't even really remember that Super Bowl.
They can't keep on getting away with this. The Chiefs can't keep on getting away with this.
Well, today was hilarious, and let's get some FKCs down below. The NFL officials came out today, and they were like, we can't even believe or wrap my mind around that people think that we're helping the Chiefs make the Super Bowl. And I don't think that people, I'll sit up here, and it's not that I think that the refs are purposely helping the Chiefs win. I actually don't think that that's the plan. But at the same time, they are protecting Mahomes, and they're giving the Chiefs way more opportunities. And in a game like the NFL, where sometimes playoffs, it comes down to opportunities, they get way more chances, more opportunities. And
it's a game of inches, and the Chiefs get a foot every single effing game.
And, it's just one of those things where I was trying to think of an analogy to say on this show earlier, and the only thing that was really popping in my mind is, imagine being a parent, okay? Imagine being a parent and saying, oh, I don't have a favorite child. Of course, that's what you're going to say, and you probably sit there and you go, I don't want to have a favorite child. But then I would say, then why do you always favorite your one child? You know what I mean? Of course, that's what a ref's going to say. And of course, the plan is to not favorite one child. You want to show love to all your kids. But then when you show love to one kid more than all your other kids, I think it's safe to assume that you love that one kid more. That's the best analogy I can come up with in my mind. What up, Nav Man? Definition of bridge quarterback is the following. Grizzled veteran I'll tell you what, only Nabman is using a word of grizzled. Quite frankly, there's going to be a time in a show where I look at all you and I go, give me your one-word reaction to this signing. I swear to God, I'm going to use it one time this year in free agency. The Raiders are going to make a signing, and the one-word reaction, grizzled.
That
grizzled veteran.
I imagine a grizzled veteran eats steak and eggs every morning.
And probably eats liver. Been there, done that. Free agent, 1 or 2 year deal, you're welcome. AOC is a great quarterback too. Again, like I don't disagree with a lot of the things that you're saying. The problem is if you want to get a respectable quarterback in free agency, I'm a believer you're going to have to give him a 3-year type of deal. That doesn't mean he's going to be on the team for 3 years. If anything, I think it's like you give him 2 years guaranteed, and then in that third year, it's $0 million guaranteed, and you can potentially hand the keys to the car. The thing with Aiden is going to be if the Raiders sign a quarterback and if they plan on drafting a QB, okay? If those are the two options that they have, maybe they still want to keep Aiden as QB2, and then the quarterback that they draft, they want to keep him as QB3 to learn. Like, that's a potential. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But if you also know that Aiden in your plan is never going to see the field again, because that's how I think the Raiders are hoping. I think the Raiders legitimately are hoping that Aiden O'Connell never takes another snap for the Las Vegas Raiders at quarterback. And I don't think that that's a crazy thing to say. If you know that, I am somebody that believes in taking advantage of value. Aiden O'Connell's value today, right now, is the highest that it's going to be. He's got 17 starts. He's been in a shit ton of really bad situations. But there would be a team this offseason, I bet, that would be willing to offer at least a 6th-round pick for him. And I know it's only a 6th-round pick, but you need the extra draft capital, where if Aiden sits and he doesn't play, right, for a whole year, and then he's in the final year of his deal, well, then I don't think a team's going to trade him for him in the final year, and then you might just end up cutting him. If the plan is to never let Aiden see the field again, I am somebody in a year that I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive because that's what the Raiders look like they're doing. I'm going to take that 6th-round pick, and I'm going to invest it into our future because Aiden's not the future of the Raiders. Raider 831, Raiders need to get Holland at quarterback and go for a quarterback in the draft. I was going to say, Holland to me, I mean, I've seen some people say that he's got some versatility. Holland to me, though, is a safety in the NFL. Now, sure, the Raiders got Marcus Epps. You also have Trevon Merrick, who are both free agents. Isaiah Palomalo is going to be a free agent. The Raiders, to me, they're going to bring back Palomalo. That's a guarantee. I think he's a restricted rights free agent, so it's not going to cost a lot of money to bring him back. To me, though, I also want them to bring back Trevon Merrick, depending on what his price tag is going to be. I'm hoping it's not over $10 million per year, though. I was talking to somebody who's covering the Super Bowl, and they threw out a number at me like 11 or 12 million, which kind of blew my mind because Jesse Bates made only $8 million last season. I want to bring back, if it was up to me, I'm bringing back Merrick. I'm going to bring back Palomalo, and then you still got to be able to add another safety. Let's go to Aggressive Master Raider. What's up, my man? Shout out to the 1,500 people here in the building. 10 years ago today, I remember it clearly. My buddy came running out of the room shouting, "It's a boy. We never went back to Thailand." But, Hangover? Oh, I got it. I don't know, I was thinking it was a Hangover reference. Chugs was like close. There was a part in that Hangover movie that I think relates to what Aggressive Master Raider is talking about here. Does Sincere McCormick have a role here in 2025? So McCormick is actually what is known as and I hope I get this right, a street free agent, which is a term that not really gets thrown out there a lot. So Sincere McCormick technically last season for the Raiders was $256,000. So it's a player that's not quite on the practice squad, but because he had some injury issues the year even prior to that, UDFA, he was considered a street free agent. And, a guy running the rock as well as what Sincere did, I would like to be able to bring him back, but here's the other problem. You got a brand new regime, brand new organization, and a running back that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. If you told me, though, could we bring him back and let's just say it costs $750K, I would do it in a flipping heartbeat. Amir Abdul is a free agent. Alexander Madison's a free agent. How about this question to the entire nation out there? Would you rather have Sincere McCormick or Zamir White? Type S for Sincere, type Z for Zamir. S for Sincere, Z for Zamir. That's a tough one. I think everybody's going to type Sincere McCormick. And the fact that I know that deep down, then you bring back Sincere, you just cut Zeus. Because Zeus, he's done, man. He's cooked. Let's go to Venthrak. Assuming that we don't draft a quarterback, any potential QB names excite you in 2026? I can't say the Tennessee QB name. I mean, the big name is Arch. I would say this, and again, I'm not even looking ahead to 2026. I will start to do more and more draft coverage as it goes on, but I've said this before to a lot of people. I think Tom Downey is one of the smartest individuals when it comes to draft preparation. Tom literally puts together this 700-page doc, and it's got notes on people that you wouldn't even believe. And I mean, Tom is a wizard when it comes to the draft. And he tells me all the time the 2026 draft is so much better from a quarterback standpoint than this year. Jaxson
Dart, great thrower, great pocket presence, loves Frosted Flakes.
Seriously, those are the notes that Tom puts in. It's unbelievable. But I like those because sometimes it's a funny little joke, but that's how much homework Tom does.
Ashton Ginty, all-around running back, can catch the ball out of the backfield. First car, Honda Civic.
Exactly. Yeah, that one, I forget which player that was, but that was I was happy the Raiders didn't draft that guy. Let's go to Noah. What up, man? Chugs, a foot is wild in a game of inches. LOL. He's not wrong, though. I mean, technically, you say that they give yards, right? We're talking about the refs. The refs aren't even giving feet. They're giving yards out in a game of inches. And, let's look at a game where the Chiefs are a better football team than the Houston Texans. They are. At the same time, though, that game was 3-3. And what would have been an opportunity for the Chiefs to punt it away, Texans would have got the ball after just scoring on that drive. Then they could have gotten the ball, gone down the field, and who knows, could have changed. But roughing the passer, which was just a ridiculous call, Kansas City gets another opportunity. And when you just give a team that's as good as what Kansas City is an extra opportunity, you're going to win more games, right? It'd be like coming down the court, Steph Curry throws up a three, misses it, and the refs go, foul, but instead of shooting free throws, Steph, we're just going to let you shoot again. The Warriors would win a lot more games if that was the case. You know what I'm saying? Because when the greats get an extra opportunity, they're probably going to take advantage of that opportunity. On top of that, Houston and all these teams schemed up a certain play. They schemed up probably one of the best plays that they could to get the stop. And then Kansas City's so smart that they're like, all right, well, you did it once, you might try to do it again. My point is, then it's a 10-point shift, it's 13-3. You just can't give a team like Kansas City that many opportunities. Now, man, don't get me wrong, FKC, okay? But if you put the game out of reach in the fourth quarter against those a-holes, there is nothing Taylor or the refs can do. Fix it. Nobody has. Eagles need to stop them in a submission. Now let up. Don't let up. I mean, every team has this plan, right? And the problem is, though, teams can't put the game out of reach when it comes to Kansas City. When you're this good, and they're so good at being in those one-possession games because they're not going to get blown out. Kansas City's too good to get blown out. And the fact that they can always hang around in these one-possession games is why they are so annoying. But us, at the same time, I can remember back in 2019, I remember covering this game. And the Raiders were beating the Chiefs 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. This was back in Oakland. And Mahomes in one quarter, second quarter, put up 28 points. DeMarcus Robinson, I think, had 177 receiving yards, and it was in a blink of an eye. It kind of reminded me when Klay Thompson got hot in one quarter and was able to put up 37 points or something crazy like that. The Texans were up 24-0 on Mahomes just a few years ago in the playoffs. So, there's been times where it's been put out of reach, but at the same time, as much as we hate Kansas City, they are very good. And that's what sucks about it. I know, I hate him too. Ryan Campbell, need your best Dickie V impersonation. Also, I like the hires that we made. Screams actually winning in the future or now. I think the hires that the Raiders are making are just smart hires. Like, Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen is a perfect example. And I actually had somebody comment this yesterday on one of my videos. They were like, why do you think it's smart that the Raiders hired the NFL tight end to be the quarterback coach? And I was like, you honestly really need to watch the video. But at the same time, Greg Olsen, not a good X's and O's guy, not somebody that you want as an offensive coordinator. But as a quarterback coach, I could make an argument Greg Olsen might be the best quarterback coach in the NFL because of all the regimes he's been on. John Gruden said, this is a guy that I want. Sean McVay said, this is a guy that I want. Shanahan, this is a guy that I want. And now he's getting another opportunity. Tom Brady said, this is a guy that I want. When you have that many people that are really, really smart and say, that's somebody that I want to keep around, that's really great. And in terms of the Dickie V impersonation.
I was going to say, could you do Dickie V talking about Shedeur Sanders?
The problem is, I don't think the only Dickie V impersonations I can do.
Shedeur, baby! He's a Sanders baby!
Shedeur! I was going to say, Shedeur Sanders, baby! He's a diaper dandy! Dipsy-doo! Throw the ball down the field-a-roo! Touchdown, baby!
Just like his dad is prime time, Shedeur is the next man up!
Now, when I was a kid, one of my favorite games, and it was the NCAA basketball game. I used to play it on Xbox. It was the one with Blake Griffin on the cover when he played for Oklahoma. And Dickie V and his sayings that he would say in that game have just stuck with me for so long that that's what I think of. It's like the only way you're getting a Dickie V impersonation if it's from that video game. How many people watching this show had that video game?
Shedeur's dad was prime time. He's pay-per-view.
Oh, man. Dickie V, what a legend, man. Let's go to Sanchez. Question for fun. If we, the Raiders, weren't allowed to add a single player, what's the record of our current team with the newly hired regime? Honestly, probably I'll say this, 4 wins. I think if you keep this exact team, we're going to win 4 games again. And that would be an improvement because you lose so many players on the defensive side of the football. You still don't really have a quarterback situation, but I would say Aiden O'Connell for 17 games gives you a better chance with what we have in Chip Kelly. But again, if you're saying we can't add anybody, look at our defense. Who's starting on defense? I would say right now our starting defense would be Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, an edge. We're missing 28 free agents. I got to look at this. Because quite frankly, I actually don't even know who would start off the top of my head. So it would be Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, and then I would say your next best starter, you actually don't have a defensive tackle. John Ulalu's a free agent. John Jenkins is a free agent. Adam Butler's a free agent. Matthew Butler's technically a free agent. Zach Carter's technically a free agent. Yeah, dude, you ain't winning. I guess you put Tyree Wilson in at defensive tackle, and then you let Andre Carter be your other starting edge. Your linebackers would be Amari Burney. And that's actually your only linebacker that's still on your roster. Your cornerbacks would be Jacorian Bennett, Jack Jones. Your starting safeties would be Chris Smith and probably Trey Taylor. I guess linebacker is Tommy Eichenberg and Amari Burney. John Ulalu, Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby. That defense ain't inspiring a lot of confidence in me. I don't know about y'all. Suave, at the end of the day, it comes down to the D. You're damn right. Venthrak, the running back position has seen a decline, but now it's on the comeback. How should the Raiders value the running back position, in your opinion? You're completely right, where, I think it's kind of cool sometimes the NFL, how it shifts, and this was a conversation that actually Chugs and I had many years ago saying, when you look at the way defenses are working, where it went more pass heavy, so what a team started to do, they started to go with more faster players sideline to sideline, and instead of being strong, they went with more can guys defend the pass. And now a lot of these defenses are playing nickel defenses. They're playing, defenses that are made to stop the passing game because it's a quarterback-driven league. So then you go out and you invest heavily on your offensive line. You go out and invest heavily in your running back position, and it makes it easier to be able to run the football and be physical. The way that I would do it if I was the Raiders is there's going to be a running back that I talk about here on today's live show of who I would go out and get in free agency. But running back position is important, no doubt about it. But it's still not as important as your offensive line, as your quarterback position. So, again, I'm going to look at getting a QB, building an offensive line, and then if I want to go spend big on the running back spot, I'm okay with it. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles, best offensive line in the NFL. Yes, Saquon's amazing, but, that offensive line deserves a lot of credit for how great Saquon Barkley is. Quinn, even the Lions, look at the Lions. What do you think about Matthew Stafford being with the Silver and Black? Would that even be possible? I really don't think it would be possible. I know it's a name that just continuously gets thrown out there. He's got $0 million guaranteed on his contract in 2026. But the problem is, for the Lions to trade him, they eat $45 million. So if you're the Rams, sorry, Matthew Stafford thinking Lions. If you're the Lions, if you're the Rams, would you rather trade away Matthew Stafford and pay him $45 million, or would you rather have Matthew Stafford on your team for $49 million? I mean, if I'm the Rams, I'd rather just pay Matthew Stafford $4 million more and keep him on my football team. That's why I don't see a trade happening with Stafford. Now, if a team offers, if you said this, hey, Rams, we'll give you the 6th overall pick, I think actually they would entertain that idea. I don't want to do that, though. To me, that 6th pick has to be in the future. So just based on the contract and contract structure of loan of Stafford, I just don't think the Rams trade him this offseason. We could see, though. All right, y'all, so here's what I want to do. I want to get into another segment here on today's show. We still got 2 more segments to get into. Appreciate all the super chats that we've gotten. We've had a lot of awesome questions. We still have close to over 1,200 people watching this bad boy. If you haven't already, take 2 seconds. Hit that like button. It does help us out a lot. Coming up here next on the show, let's talk about some quarterbacks that Chip Kelly could potentially bring in. Though I'm getting a little bit warm, so give me a second here. The room that we're in, it shifts temperature. No, I know. The problem is when I put the fan on me, it's too cold. So the room that we're in is kind of weird. Our new studio, though, it's going to be up and running very soon, which I'm very, very excited about. All right, so we're going to talk about Chip Kelly and which quarterback I think is the most likely the Raiders could pair with our brand new OC. If you're ready to get into that, spam me down below. I'm going to get a quick sip of water, and then we're going to get it popping. Ready? Coming up, let's talk about Chip Kelly and some quarterbacks. The Las Vegas Raiders hired Chip Kelly to be their offensive coordinator, paying him $6 million. He is now the highest paid OC in the National Football League. I don't know about you. I want to know what the quarterback plan is with Chip. So coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you this. The top quarterbacks that the Las Vegas Raiders could potentially draft. And the fact that we're going to sit up here and talk about it, we know that the Raiders have the number 6 pick. And you have 10 overall picks this year. But who are the Raiders going to pick is extremely important. And we're going to try to figure out what that pairing looks like with Chip Kelly. Now, if you want to check out the top 5 quarterbacks that I think Chip could potentially look at in free agency and bridge, because in my mind, the Raiders are going to be aggressive this offseason. And I could see the Raiders signing a quarterback in free agency, but then also potentially drafting one during draft day. If you want to see the top 5 quarterbacks that I think make the most sense for Chip in free agency, click the subscribe button. You can also see this video. It's going to be down in the comments and in the description of today's show. So coming up here on today's episode of the Raiders Report, I have ranked the top 10 quarterbacks for Chip Kelly based on least likely to most likely being drafted. These are not QBs where I'm saying the number 1 guy is the guy that I like the most for Kelly. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the guy ranked number 1 is the person I think is the most likely that the Raiders draft for our new OC. Let's go to number 10 here. It's going to be Curtis Rourke. And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to move through some of these names a little bit quickly because Rourke is not really somebody that I think has a lot of potential. Though at 6'5", 223, there were some reports apparently that he did play on a torn ACL or a knee injury for a majority of the season. Did get better and better and better Kelly did get to see him in the Big Ten, but this is a QB that you're probably going to draft in the 7th round, not a legitimate starter anyway. Let's go to number 9 here on the list. It's Quinn Ewers in Texas, and Ohio State's gotten into some pretty interesting battles, got into an interesting battle this season, and Ewers is somebody that I really thought should have went back to college, and I think he should have taken the Carson Beck route of, all right, I might not be able to stay at my current school, but I could go to another school. Ewers has got a big arm, and I'll tell you this. If I was Ewers, the number 1 OC or one of the top OCs I'd want to go to could be Chip, because I think that skill set does work and translate very well, but it's not somebody that I would want the Raiders to draft, and I really hope it's not somebody that Chip Kelly wants the Raiders to go out and get. Let's go to number 8 here. It's Riley Leonard, and the reason why I have Leonard ranked higher than Quinn and higher than Rourke is because of where I think that he could potentially go. I think Leonard is a better quarterback than Rourke. However, I don't think that Leonard is a better QB than Quinn Ewers, but you can get Leonard probably a little bit later on. I'm going to say he goes in the 6th round, maybe 5th round, but probably 6th, 7th round, a little bit later on. Another QB that has shown that he can run the football. And I'll be curious to see what type of offense Kelly implements. Does he go with one that, we saw back in his Oregon days? Do we see one that he implemented at Ohio State? Do we see kind of a blend? Do we see what he was doing at UCLA? A lot of different routes. But to me, I wanted to just throw out some names of other QBs that you can look at in the draft. But realistically, this list gets serious in the top 7. So before I get into the top 7 quarterbacks, the ones that I believe are the most likely that the Raiders draft for Kelly, who is the perfect quarterback to pair with Chip Kelly from the 2025 NFL Draft? You're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. The answer coming up for me is going to be at number 1, but I will say I know people are going to go with Dillon Gabriel just because of the Oregon connection. Now, Gabriel has no connection whatsoever with Chip, but people see that, that Oregon Duck, and everybody, I don't care what you say. When I think of Chip Kelly, I still think of the Oregon Ducks. And one of the things that we got to talk about with Kelly is the ability to execute a system. Dillon Gabriel, yes, he's undersized. He's got a high football IQ, but he's able to show that he can execute a system. I believe he's going to be drafted somewhere around the 4th, maybe 5th round, and there's just better quarterbacks in that area, which is why I have Gabriel at 7. I did talk about many months ago that a source told me that the Raiders were eyeing Shedeur Sanders as plan A and Dillon Gabriel as plan B. I'll admit that was with the idea of Tom Telesco being the GM, so I don't know exactly where that stands, but I've learned this week. I've learned that just because somebody told me something 2 months ago and it changes a little bit doesn't necessarily mean that you take all that information and throw it out the window. I was also told 2 months ago that the Raiders were going to eye Chip Kelly to be an offensive coordinator. Then other stuff happened. We kind of forgot about it a little bit. I'm going to make sure that I don't forget about Dillon Gabriel and what I was told a few months ago, because, again, I was told the same thing about Kelly. Kind of forgot about it a little bit, and now guess what? He's back. He's the OC. Let's go to number 6 here on the list. It's Cam Ward. Y'all know that I love Cam Ward, and I'm telling you this right now. The only quarterback that the Las Vegas Raiders should trade up for to pair with Kelly, it is Cam flippin' Ward. And I say that based off of round 1. If the Raiders want to move up and go get their guy in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm not. But he's the best quarterback in the draft, and I think the only way that you're going to be able to get him is if you trade up for him. That's why he's number 6. Again, this is a list based on what is the most likely. But I'm telling you this right now. You told me perfect world, top quarterback for Kelly. It's Cam. He's always cool, calm, and collected. He's shown that he's able to get better and better and better. And when he was at Washington State, and then you saw that what he was able to do at Miami this past season, the way that he goes through his progression, the way that he sits in a pocket and really can pick people apart, I think that is the best version of what Chip Kelly's offense could potentially look like in the NFL. Is Ward a runner? No, but when he needs to use his legs, he has that ability. And that's the type of quarterback that I think that the Raiders are going to look for to pair with Chip. Not somebody that's a runner, but somebody that is a precision pocket passer that has the ability to use his legs when he needs to use his legs. Like, I don't consider Patrick Mahomes a pocket passer. I don't consider even, Joe Burrow a pocket passer. I don't consider Josh Allen a pocket passer, but when they sit in the pocket, they can deliver a strike. They can also tuck in and run and pick up a first down with their legs, which is why I love Cam Ward. If the Raiders figured out a way to get Cam Ward, man, oh man, I'm putting a hole through this table. We got our top 5 QBs most likely to be drafted by the Raiders for Chip Kelly here in just a moment. But you know what? Prize Picks is today's sponsor, and I flippin' love Prize Picks. And I think, honestly, y'all will too, because it's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. The big game, it's almost here and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. You get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Also, with the big game, they're going to hook you guys up with a deal, which you guys can see right now. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to throw for more than a half of a passing yard. So you take the more there, and then you got to look at somebody from the Philadelphia Eagles, because when you make a lineup on PrizePicks, you got to at least pick 2 players from 2 different teams. You know what I'm saying? So if you pick Mahomes, you can't then choose a Chiefs player. You got to choose an Eagles player. So A.J. Brown, let's say, more or less than 70.5 receiving yards for the Eagles receiver. If you're sitting here going, oh, that's an easy more, that's an easy less, then put your money where your mouth is. Also, then you take the more on Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to be able to put some money in your pocket. If you plan on watching the big game, you might as well put some money in your pocket while you do it. And if you plan on hanging out with Jeremy Chuggs and I, you already know, we're going to have a bunch of PrizePicks lineups. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. I should also mention this. Those links down in the comments, down in the description. The OGs, you already know. Let's go to number 5 here. It's Jalen Milroe from Alabama. And if the Raiders wanted to go really smash mouth, I'm talking they wanted to try to run the football down the throats of their opponents, and they go out and they sign a quarterback like Justin Fields in free agency, I'm going to put Jalen Milroe higher up on this list. If they go out and they sign somebody like a Sam Darnold, then I don't know if this one makes all that much sense. If they go out and they sign a Russell Wilson, then I think Jalen Milroe is a little bit easier to think about. But this is a player that needs at least a year or 2 to develop. Quite frankly, I think he needs at least 2 years. But he's the best athlete at the quarterback position this year. And I think, honestly, from an athlete standpoint, he's going to be up there with somebody like an Anthony Richardson. If I was Milroe, playing an old-school Chip Kelly offense like they ran in Oregon would be a lot of fun, and it's the way that you'd have to do it. The problem, though, is I don't know if that's what the Chip Kelly offense is anymore, because I think when people think of the Kelly offense, they just instantly go back to the Oregon Ducks, to Marcus Mariota, and it's going to be a lot of RPOs. It's going to be a lot of just quick passes. It's going to be designed for a QB like Milroe. And maybe it is designed for Milroe. I don't know what the Raiders plan. And quite frankly, one of my favorite parts about Chip is I really do. I think no matter which quarterback you give him, he's going to be able to have success. Is Milroe a risk? Yes, absolutely. But if you let Jalen Milroe learn from John Spytek, you let him learn underneath Tom Brady, you let him learn from a veteran, somebody like a Russell Wilson, maybe a Justin Fields, whoever it may be, you also let him learn with Chip Kelly. He's an alien on the field. You can't deny that. It's just, is he ever going to be able to put it together from a passing standpoint? That, unfortunately, I do not know. Let's go to number 4 here on the list, and it's going to be Kyle McCord. The reason why I have McCord ranked higher than Milroe, not because I think McCord's a better player than Milroe, though. If you want to talk about a quarterback on tape that I've been watching more and I'm falling more and more in love with him, it's Kyle McCord. The other thing, though, is where you're going to be able to get him. I think you're going to be able to get McCord probably on day 3, and because you're going to be able to get him on day 3, it's easier for the Raiders and higher of a chance to go get him if they want him. McCord was the Ohio State quarterback in 2023, the year before Kelly came to the Buckeyes, but here are the things that I love about him. Strong arm, super quick release. That's a big, very important thing for Tom Brady, quick release. Not a great athlete, but when a play breaks down, he can use his legs to extend it. And I do love his play action ability, because when I go back and I look at some of those really great Pete Carroll offenses with Russell, it was a lot of play action because they're going to want to run the football. And if you know they're going to want to run the football, then they need to be able to have somebody that can do play action. 37 total touchdowns last season. I know it says negative 65 rushing yards. That's because I hate it, but college football, when you get sacked, it counts as negative rushing yards. It's literally the dumbest thing that college football does. But for people that did watch the Syracuse Orange, and I watch Syracuse football often just because I got some friends that are very tied to that university. So I did. I watched McCord a lot. And also this year was a year that I wanted to watch a lot of quarterbacks. And the fact that he was at Ohio State the year before, I wanted to see how it translated. And I'll tell you this, from a talent standpoint alone, I think Kyle McCord's a better quarterback than Will Howard. I'm not afraid to say it. I think if Kyle McCord would have been the quarterback this past year for the Buckeyes, they also would have won a freaking national championship. Let's go to number 3, though, on our list here at Shedeur Sanders. And Sanders, I think a lot of people expected to be number 1 on my list. But the reason that Shedeur's number 3 is because of where you have to take him. If the Raiders want Sanders, you're going to have to take him in round 1. You might even have to take him at number 6 overall. I'll admit, there's been a lot of reports, there's been a lot of rumors circulating that Sanders will be available to the Raiders at number 6. The connections that he has with TB12, they're already there. Deion Sanders has already made it known that he wants Shedeur to be a Raider, and he said that when he said that I want the Raiders job. He said the only way that he would take the Raiders job is if he can get one of his kids to play there. Shedeur's got great accuracy, and he has shown growth in every single year from Jackson State to Colorado to the following year at Colorado. And here's the other thing that I love about him. He handles pressure. Yeah, you might do some weird, corny stuff once in a while, flashing a watch here and there, but being in the NFL is not easy. Being the quarterback of the Raiders means you're going to have a lot of pressure, and you're going to have a lot of eyeballs on you. There's not a better quarterback more prepared for eyeballs and pressure than Shedeur Sanders, and that's just a cold, hard fact. I'll admit this, though. We had a few guys that were watching him live in person recently, and the velocity of the ball coming out of his hands, I was told, was a little bit concerning for some people out there. But, and I'm not trying to compare the two because I'm somebody where I look at notes, and I say, where can we learn? I looked at some of the quarterback notes that I have on Shedeur Sanders based on velocity of the football. And it reminds me way back when Deshaun Watson wasn't, a shithead, but when he was coming out of Clemson, I had notes on him being good, accurate player, can make plays, but bad velocity. And Deshaun, before the shenanigans, was a good quarterback. We can all agree on that. I know the velocity scares me, but he does have anticipatory throws. I think that's the right way to use it. He can find guys open. He can do some good things, but the upside for Shedeur does scare me. But the connections around Tom Brady, and with Brady making a lot of the calls, Shedeur's got to be in this top 3, but he's not in my top 2. How about this, though? I've said before that I believe Cam Ward is the best option for the Raiders. He's the guy that I want this organization to go out and get. And if Ward is the only quarterback that I would start in year 1. I'm going to talk a lot about draft quarterbacks. I'm going to talk about a lot of different guys on this show and throughout the entire year. I'm serious when I say this. The only quarterback that I think is ready to start in year 1 is Cam Ward. Any other quarterback that you draft, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, Kyle McCord, Jalen Milroe, maybe it's this next guy coming up on the list, they need to sit for at least a year, maybe even 2 years. If you agree with that, hit that like button. Let's go to number 2 on my list. It is Jaxson Dart, the Ole Miss running rebel. And a lot of rumors, a lot of reports here around Jaxson Dart. And to me, the number 1 offensive coordinator that Dart should want to play for is Chip Kelly. He's a good athlete who can execute a system, and that's what he's going to be asked to do with Kelly. Kelly does a lot of stuff, but he also kind of simplifies it where he's going to get the tight end involved. They're going to run the football a bunch. You're going to need to be able to use play action, and on top of that, you need to be able to throw the ball to all levels of the field, but you also need to have confidence in yourself. And Jaxson Dart is a player that, when he's confident, he's really good. And I'm going to throw out a comparison here, and I hope it doesn't scare people because I don't think it's the same from a skill position standpoint. But Jaxson Dart has a little Derek Carr in him where when Derek was at his peak, and I mean when he was moving the football, it's because he was confident in himself. But as soon as things started to go bad, tail between his legs, and it was instant like, oh no, we're about to get the bad version of Derek Carr. That's what happens when I watch Jaxson Dart tape. There are times when I watch Dart throw the football, and I'm like, holy flippin' cow, this guy is pushing the ball down the field, and I love what I'm seeing. I also was not a big fan of Josh Allen coming out of college, and a lot of people knew that. But Allen was able to find the right guy, and Brian Dable was able to find the right system that let him learn how to be a quarterback. Dart's got a lot of the athletic intangibles that you can't really teach, and he does a lot of good stuff. But his technique, his footwork, his arm angles, there's a lot of inconsistencies in that. If you let Dart learn with people that have had success with quarterbacks like Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Chip Kelly, Tom Brady, and you let him learn for a year or two, I think it's interesting. Also, he's number 2 because of the amount of rumors, the amount of reports right now saying that the Raiders could be interested in him. It's not somebody I want to take in round 1. But the fact that you might be able to get him in round 2 is why I have him ranked at number 2. But let's face it, the number 1 quarterback that I would say if I was a betting man right now is the most likely to be drafted by the Raiders for Chip Kelly. And the only reason is because Chip Kelly and Will Howard just won a national championship together, right? Like, that's the only reason why I can sit up here and say that it makes sense. I'll be real. I don't think Will Howard's that good of a quarterback in the NFL. He's a good college QB. But he did just win a natty. He's a mobile pocket passer, which is something that I know for a fact Kelly wants. And Chugs laughed because I said he's low-key a good play-action QB. But that's important because they're going to use a lot of play action because they're going to want to run the football for the Raiders. It's what Carroll does. It's what their offensive line coach is going to want to do, Carroll's kid. And it's what, Chip's going to want to do. Like, I think a lot of times people think either Chip's going to just run the football a ton or just air raid. He does like an air raid, run the attack. He beats you however he wants to beat you based on scheme. And I know Howard executed the system. But also, the amount of talent that Ohio State had, was insane. The amount of talent the Buckeyes had on offense compared to most defenses in college football, they always had more talent. And it's not going to be that skewed in the NFL where he's going to have to go out there and he's going to have to do his thing. Now, again, maybe if you let him sit for 2 years, because, again, Will Howard's 2-year project, I'm telling you. He's from Downington, PA, which does kill me a little bit. I know some people that grew up around Will Howard, and everybody that I hear about him say he is a phenomenal human being. Stand-up guy, got a great head on his shoulders, hard-working kid, does a lot of those things. But I'm only going to say this. The only reason why he's number 1 is because of that connection with Chip Kelly. Out of all these names on this list, I would rather Jaxson Dart over Will Howard. I would rather Shedeur Sanders over Will Howard. I would rather Kyle McCord, Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward. I would even maybe flirt with the idea of Dylan Gabriel over Will Howard if it's based on winning football games in town alone. But to me, these are the top 10 quarterbacks, and really, I think the top 4, top 5 is where you got to be paying attention to because the Raiders are more than likely going to take a quarterback, but they're also more than likely going to take a QB that's going to learn for at least 1 year. If you want to take a screenshot of this, post it on IG, post it on Twitter. Make sure you tag me at Mitchell Renz 365. It's going to be one hell of an offseason. Hopefully you all are ready to buckle it up because Chip Kelly, it's going to be really, really fun to see what they do at the quarterback position. All right, y'all, since we're talking about QBs, I thought that this would be a good question. And I know I see some people going, Will Howard. I kind of agree with you. I don't think Will Howard's, again, all that great. But if I was a betting man, I would say Will Howard, probably you're able to get him in the 3rd round, which is why the chances of him getting him are a little bit higher. So here's my question. What would you do? Would you draft Shedeur Sanders at number 6 overall, type SS? Would you draft Jaxson Dart, maybe we can spell it right, 37 overall? Or would you rather with Will Howard at 68? Type JD for Jaxson Dart, WH for Will Howard, SS for Shedeur Sanders. What would you guys do? I see some SS's in there from Jonathan Martinez, from Playmaker. Jaxson Dart at 37 or Shedeur at 6 kind of seem to be the top 2 answers here. And it's interesting, man. Isaiah says Shedeur Sanders easily. Like, to me, I think Sanders is the safer prospect of, if you told me which player do I think makes it in the NFL, like, safer floor, it's Sanders. Now, I get it. There's a bigger risk taking somebody at 6 compared to 37, but I think Shedeur's more NFL ready right now than Jaxson is. But if you're okay letting a guy sit for 2 years, then I think the Jaxson Dart conversation just becomes a lot more of one that I'm interested to have. You know what's also crazy? Instantly now, it's like cold again over here. It's the weather change in this room is just unbelievable. Chugs, what would you pick out of these options? What do you think?
I mean, the steal would be Shedeur at 6 if he falls to you. So I'm typing SS.
Okay.
That makes if you don't have to trade up and you still get Shedeur, that's the best option. But if you have to trade up for Shedeur, I'm going Jaxson Dart at 37 because you're getting a guy who is probably going to be a first-round talent in this year's draft at 37. He's going to go in the 1st round.
Top Beat says, what's up, Chugs? Low life. The weather in Dallas is crazy. It is. It's actually like, it's colder in this room probably than what it is outside. And today when I woke up this morning, I took Chuck out for a little walk. It was like 67 degrees. Next week, we're supposed to be, like, it actually almost hit 80 degrees the other day. It was like 77. And then and just a week, we're going to be down in the 20s. It's wild, man. Let's go to the Great John Outdoors. Do you think the Raiders should trade for Myles Garrett? I do not. It's a fish. If I had to guess what kind of fish that is, that looks like a pike, a catfish, could be a muskie, because that would be a big trout. No, it's not a walleye. Walleyes are ugly fish. Great tasting fish, but I think it's a catfish. Though it could be a pike or a muskie. John, you got to let me know. The reason why I'm saying no to trading for Myles Garrett is because let's say it costs you a first and a second round pick. I'm not giving up a first or a second round pick. Even if it costs you just the number 6 overall pick, I'm not doing it. And I'm not doing it because you then have to pay him all that money. And again, he's looking for somewhere around 4 years, $137 million. But then you also have to pay Max Crosby similar money. And if I'm Max, I would actually go, well, wait a minute. You put Myles Garrett as a priority above me. Because if you're the Raiders and you extend Max, I don't see why then you would go out and trade for Myles Garrett. It might be a cap. I can't tell. It depends. Like, honestly, it depends where his hand is. If his hand is in the mouth, it's 100% a catfish. Because you're not putting a hand inside of a pike or a muskie to bite your hand off. Oh, my God, yeah. Dude, they have razor blades for teeth. Dude, muskies, like, there's, like, growing up as a kid, I grew up on the Susquehanna River. Like, there were stories of, like, muskies, like, biting people and taking chunks out. Like, it's like, yeah, dude, muskie's a scary fish, dude. Pike, same thing. They're like the barracuda of lakes and stuff. A catfish, though, like, have you ever seen people that noodle? Like, noodling's a big deal in my hometown. You know noodling? Well, people I knew didn't do it with gloves because they wanted to be able to, like, feel it easier. But I actually knew a kid I went to high school with, true story. He lost 3 of his fingers noodling because he stuck his hole in a catfish hole and it was a snapping turtle. And it just took his fingers right off. So, like, now, like, they make, like, chain link, like, gloves that people mainly use for more of, like, construction work. Think of it as, like, a steel-toed boot for your hand. Now I know people that do that. But growing up, dude, yeah, I knew a kid stuck his hand in a hole. I'm not going to shout him out, but what's up? You know what it reminded me of? You know I love the movie The Wrong Missy, where they're on, like, the boat and it's Rob Schneider and he's like, what's up? Like, talking about the shark. It's basically that. Jaxson Dart gives Derek Carr vibes. And I don't disagree with this statement, man. I really don't. And I say that because I don't think that their play style is all that similar. Like, I'm being real with you. Honestly, the quarterback that I think kind of reminds me the most of Derek Carr coming out of college is Kyle McCord. I'm not kidding when I say that. He's his quick release, he's able to get the ball out quickly, does a lot of that type of stuff. The Jaxson Dart, Derek Carr comps to me, not from a skill set standpoint at all. It's the confidence level of, and we know this as Raider fans, when Derek was in, like on a tear, you're like, dude, Derek's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But then when Derek was bad, and it could happen of a snap of a finger, you're like, this guy's not even a top 25 QB. And the inconsistencies of Dart are because his mechanics suck. They do. His footwork's bad, his arm angles, like, his mechanics are bad, which usually is when guys are really inconsistent. If you can get his mechanics down, I'm telling you, there's going to be a shot there. Let's go to Suave. Costa trade for Garrett and the number 2 pick. Chug said Max Crosby in your first and second pick. It's actually probably not enough. If you said Myles Garrett and the number 2 pick, I would say for the Raiders, you got to give up pick 6 this year. You got to give up a first-round pick next season, a second-round pick this season, and Max Crosby. And then you probably have a deal. And even then, they might still say no. Because for Cleveland, they don't want to move on from Myles, right? Like, they still want to have an edge rusher, no doubt about it. But if you're the Browns and you're in a really shitty situation with Deshaun Watson, who you don't even know if he's going to play, and you gave away all your draft picks, like, if I'm Cleveland, if I was the Browns, I would trade out of the number 2 pick and just try to get as many draft picks as humanly possible to rebuild that team. Because no matter who they take at number 2, it's not going to be enough to get them where they need to go in that division. Let's go to the Raider War Report. Mitch, you said the same about Penix last year. You are not getting Dart in the second. Like Penix, we have to take him at 6. I hate to break it to you, though. Like, comparing Penix and Jaxson Dart, they're not like Penix is way better of a quarterback than Dart.
Penix.
Penix. And I know I said that, but you also got to look at the situations last year compared to this season. They're totally different. Where to me, Dart probably, if he does go in round one, he goes in round one because the other quarterbacks aren't as good. Where last year's draft, when you had all these studs in the top, that you know that they were going to go early, and there was a lot of other teams that needed the QB. But like Michael Penix Jr. or Jaxson Dart, it's Penix, and it's not close to me based on talent and talent alone. But yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. Top beats, Mitch, whether we draft Dart, Howard, or even Sanders, do you think Greg Olsen was a questionable hire to develop any QB? I think Greg Olsen is a phenomenal quarterback coach. And again, just because I don't like people were saying, oh, Mitch, you're flip-flopping. I'm not flip-flopping. It's okay to not like somebody as an OC and love them as a quarterback coach, just like it's okay to like somebody as an OC and not like them as a head coach. There's just certain people that are good at certain jobs. Like Olsen, to me, has shown that he's not able to scheme up plays. But when you are retained by McVay trees and Shanahan trees and, Pete Carroll, and all these Tom Brady, people that are just smart quarterback minds always say, we got to go out and we got to get Greg Olsen. It's because he's respected. He's worked with a lot of good quarterbacks. So, I love having Greg Olsen as a quarterback. Chip Kelly as OC, Greg Olsen as quarterback coach. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I mean, that's one of the best OC QB coach combinations, I think, in the league. I don't know if it's like Shaq and Kobe, but it's definitely a good dynamic duo. Mahomes' mechanics footwork was bad when drafted. You're not wrong. There was a lot of inconsistencies about Mahomes. Now, I'll say this. I did a podcast back in 2017 where I said Mahomes was the number one quarterback to be drafted that year. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the show. I did a little podcast called Gridiron Experts. Shout out to them. They're the only people that ever gave me a shot to write when I first started writing. But I like Mahomes because I saw the raw. You could just see how good of an athlete he was. I'm also a sucker for I'm a baseball guy. So when quarterbacks can make all these different throws, you can throw off different platforms. You could tell quickly which guys played baseball and which guys didn't or played other sports in a sense. And I'm somebody that likes that a lot. It's also why I like Cam Ward. Gutierrez, Browns want Justin Tucker for Myles Garrett. I don't know if it was you or somebody else made that joke here where it was when all the allegations came out about Tucker, they were like, the Browns are offering the Ravens 3 first-round picks and a guaranteed deal for Justin Tucker. Yikes. Again, that's a story that I don't even want to get into, man, because no matter what, it's going to be bad. Yeah, man, let's get into the next segment. I think that's a great transition point there, Gutierrez. So the next show that we got coming up here, and again, huge shout out to everybody that's tuning in live. We got 1,300 people watching the Raiders Report right now. 661 likes. You already know what you need to do. We have one more segment to get into, and it's going to be around free agency, and it's going to be around putting players in Chip Kelly's offense because we need to add players to the offense. So, you ready? To the 1,300 people, are y'all ready? If you are, spam me down below and let's talk about some free agents that the Raiders could sign in. Hang on, I got a burp. No, I'm good. NFL free agency. Coming up here today on the Raiders Report, I got the top 5 free agents that the Las Vegas Raiders should sign to pair with Chip Kelly's offense. Here's the thing that I know. The Raiders gave $6 million to this man, highest paid OC in the NFL. They are going to be aggressive. And also, they have $92.3 million in salary cap space, according to Over the Cap. Second most in the National Football League with 28 total free agents. The Raiders have already said that they are not going to rebuild, that they are going to be aggressive, and that they're going to go out there and they're going to try to win football games right away with Pete Carroll. So when you add all of that to the equation, I knew I had to make a perfect 5 free agent fits in this Chip Kelly offense. If you want to be able to hang out with Chugs and I during free agency, make sure you're subscribed. The month of March is the most important month out of any of the months that we cover the Raiders, to make sure that your notifications are clicked on because of the amount of times we randomly go live. Because when the Raiders sign a big-name guy, we'll go live. We'll also be live that entire week. Free agency starts March 12th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That moment will be live on Tuesday to that Friday for probably close to 30 to 40 hours in total. It's a lot of content. But you know what? Some people still think defense wins championships, and I'm not totally against that idea. If you want to see the perfect 5 free agents that I want the Raiders to sign on D for PG, this video is going to be down in the comments, down in the description of this one. A lot of good names, kind of throw out some different ideas of why I would want the Raiders to go out and sign those players. So now we're going to get into the top free agent targets for Chip, and these are not ranked in any particular order. They're just me throwing out 5 names. The first one, it's Trey Smith, the offensive lineman who played the past 4 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he has only played right guard, and to me, I personally would rather have somebody as a left guard, but he's the top offensive lineman in free agency this offseason. He's played in 67 games with 67 starts. He's only 25 years old. He's a member of the Chiefs, and if we could steal him away from Kansas City, obviously, I would love that. Not only is he only 25 with all those games experience, he's also got a lot of playoff experience, and I don't care what anybody says, that is extremely important in the playoffs. And at 6'6", 321, 17 games last season, did not allow a single sack. Yeah, he gave up 9 penalties, but in 1,115 snaps, show that he was a reliable lineman. He was ranked the 14th best offensive guard according to PFF out of 135 total guards, a 78.8 overall grade. Pass blocking, good. Run blocking, elite. The Raiders are going to want to run the football, and I want the Raiders to play some of that bully ball, which they're going to push people around. I want JPJ to be the center, and I'm hoping that JPJ is, in fact, the center. And if that ends up happening, that means both of our guard spots could be open. I like Dylan Parham. I thought he had a good year at right guard, but I'm also okay to the idea of putting Parham back over to left guard, and you put Trey Smith there at right guard. But the reason why you go out and get him, one, you got the money to be able to do it. He's only 25 years old, and you steal him away from Kansas City. That's a lot of wins right there. Dylan Parham is flexible enough to play left guard. JPJ is even flexible enough to move around if need be. But he's improved every single season from his rookie year to year 2, year 3, year 4. And I love the quality in a player that gets better and better and better and better. And I don't expect him to continuously get better, but it means that he's coachable. And for this coaching staff, we have a lot of good coaches on this staff. I need players that are coachable, that love football, and that's exactly who Trey Smith is. Now, in terms of some honorable mentions, if you don't want to go out and spend all that money, Will Fries could be another option that you could look at. Tevin Jenkins was another name that I threw out there just because he plays left guard, though he's missed, I think he's played 38 games out of 68 total games. Kevin Zeitler is an older name, but remember Greg Van Roten 2 years ago for the Raiders ended up being a really solid offensive lineman. If you were the silver and black and you wanted to go a little bit cheaper at guard, you could maybe sign somebody like a Zeitler. I also really want the Raiders to bring back Jordan Meredith because he might even be a really cheap option to start at left guard. But here's some other honorable mentions if you don't want to go out and break the bank on somebody like Trey Smith. So how about this, y'all? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, and I want you to name the top offensive free agent that the Raiders should sign. You could throw out a bunch of different names. You could throw out a QB. You could throw out a running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive lineman. I don't care who it is. I want you to name the top offensive free agent that you think the Raiders should sign. Let's go to the wide receiver position next here, and I got Chris Godwin. Godwin, to me, is not the top wide receiver available. I still think T. Higgins is the top receiver available, but if I'm going to spend big on Trey Smith, I can't just sit up here and say I'm going to spend big on every single position. That just doesn't make sense. The reason why I got Chris Godwin here, he's almost 29 years old, is coming off a dislocated ankle that ended a season in Week 7, but I know he's a really hard-working player. He's also a Penn Stater, and I actually know people that know Godwin well. And he's somebody that loves football. Like when you hear Pete Carroll say, I need guys that love football, Chris Godwin loves football. He had over 1,000 receiving yards from 2021 to 2023. And whether we bring in a bridge QB or we bring in a rookie, we need somebody that's got solid hands. Think about how great it felt every time that when you threw the ball to Jacoby Myers last season, he caught that B. That's what's going to happen with Chris Godwin. Great hands, dropping fewer than 6% of his catchable passes in 7 of 8 seasons. Yes, he did have a little bit of a down year again last season, but it's because he got hurt. He has been consistent, and I know he's a slot receiver, And Jacoby Myers is also a little bit of a slot, but you know what? If the Raiders do extend Myers, which could potentially happen, you put Jacoby Myers on the outside, you put Chris Godwin in there on the slot, you let Trey Tucker be a little bit of an athlete, and then you have Brock Bowers lining up all over the football field. To me, that's a recipe for success. On top of that, you also look at the wide receivers that you have on your team, and really you only have Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker. This is going to have to be an organization that invests heavily in the wide receiver position, whether it be free agency and also the NFL draft. Here are some other honorable mentions I'll throw out, though. If you're going to spend big, the two options to spend big, T. Higgins, Chris Godwin. I just think Godwin is a better fit, and I'll tell you why here in just a moment. Darius Slayton for the New York Giants. If you didn't want to spend like $20 million for Godwin, $27 for Higgins, Slayton's probably going to be somewhere around $11 to $12 million per year. And then if you're like, you know what, I just need another receiver that can just be a blocker, a physical specimen, Matt Collins, Nick Westbrook are two of the best blocking physical wide receivers. And if the Raiders want to go and be physical and then allow Jacoby, Brock to catch a lot of the footballs, run the rock effectively, these are two other cheap options where I'm not going to lie to you. If we went out and figured out a way to get Chris Godwin and we were to sign Nick Westbrook and Matt Collins, I love that based on the fit overall. But the reason why, if I'm the Raiders, I'm going out and I'm targeting Godwin is because Spytech helped draft Godwin many, many years ago. Brady also won a Super Bowl with them, and a sure-handed receiver is extremely important for a bridge or a rookie quarterback. And on top of that, Godwin would be the number one receiver we have on this team at age 29 years old. I got 3 more free agents coming up here in just a moment on the Raiders Report. But you know what? For all y'all that run behind a little bit, that maybe procrastinate, I got the perfect app for you. Shout out to Game Time, and if you're somebody that likes to wait till the last minute, then download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports. Download the app today, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. If you're like, Mitch, what can I purchase? Well, here, you can purchase tickets to a basketball game, to a baseball game soon, maybe to a football game. I don't know, maybe you want to go to the big game. If you are going to go to the big game, though, you got to check out the Game Time picks. It's going to help you get the best deal available. You can also see seats throughout like the entire stadium, whether you want to see the bowl look, whether you want to see the exact look like where you would be sitting. It's one of the things that I love about Game Time. Also, they have this feature. It's called the all-in pricing. That way you don't get hit with any like crazy checkout fees. So the fact that you can get last-minute tickets, views from your seat, lowest price guaranteed. This link is going to be down in the comments and the description of today's show. I use Game Time when I want to go to an event. So my birthday, for those that don't know, is February 20th. And my dad, he's going to be in town, and I'm trying to be able to go to a game. I'll admit, I was going to go to a Mavs game. Now I don't know if that's going to be in the cards because Luka's not there anymore. But who knows? Maybe I can get the tickets for, even a bit of a cheaper price. But if you're somebody that wants to wait, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports. If you're saying, what time is it? It's time for you to download Game Time. Let's go to another top free agent target for Chip Kelly. And I'm going to go with Aaron Jones here at the running back position. And this one might be a little bit of an eye popper for some people, so let me explain it. I would say that he's arguably the best running back in NFL free agency, where it's between him and Najee Harris, in my personal opinion, for the best back. The reason why I have Jones over Najee is because of price tag. I think Najee's going to get more money because he's younger compared to Jones, where I'm looking to bring in a running back on a one-year prove-it deal. He played in all 17 games, 2 of the last 3 seasons, which is something that you like to see. And he's a reliable runner between the tackles who can also catch the football. And his versatility is what the Raiders are going to look for with Chip Kelly. Last season with the Minnesota Vikings, 51 grabs, 408 receiving yards, 7 total touchdowns. But also, he seems like a back that gets better as the season goes on. Remember 2 years ago when it was Aaron Jones against the Cowboys in that playoff game and he ran wild on them? When you have a back that can do that, that's really, really helpful. On top of that, though, again, I know he's in his 30s and he's getting up there in age. But I feel like the running back position, if guys are still able to go out there and get it done, and he has slowed down a little bit, but Jones is a solid back that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Maybe the Raiders want to bring back Alexander Mattison or Amir Abdullah. If I had to pick between those names, I would actually bring back Abdullah because I want a pass-catching back, and he showed he was kind of a dog at the end of the season, and I respect it. But if you're wondering, all right, Mitch, why the heck should we go out and target Aaron Jones? The first reason is this. Zamir White stinks. Got to move on from him. Abdullah and Madison are free agents, so no matter what, you're going to add a running back. And I think that no matter what, the Raiders will add a back this offseason in free agency. And if I know that I can get a back in free agency, why not take Aaron Jones on a one-year deal for $7 million? He did a one-year prove-it deal last season. I'll admit, this year it would probably be more of like a 2 for somewhere between 14 to 16 million is what I think Jones ends up getting. But, that's not a bad deal. You bring in Aaron Jones. Think about how many times we talk about bridge quarterback. We also have a bridge running back. You bring in Aaron Jones. You still draft a running back in maybe the 3rd or 4th round. I'll admit, if you want to go out and draft Ashton Genty, it's probably not an Aaron Jones. If you want to draft an Omari Hampton, I don't know if you're going to add an Aaron Jones. But I also know that a lot of teams like to do multiple backs, and that's something that Seattle has done in the past with Pete Carroll, that the Patriots did with Tom Brady, that the Buccaneers did with Bucky Irvin and Rashad White. All of those names are absolute possibilities, and he's a solid running back that can help a young rookie grow. I will tell you this, though. If Aaron Jones isn't the back that people want to go out and get, there's a certain back in Tampa Bay, Rashad White. I've heard some rumors, that's what I'm going to call him, that he's interested in playing for the Raiders. I'm just saying. So how about this? What's the biggest position need right now on the offensive side of the football for the Raiders? When you're sitting here going, we got a lot of needs, and we do. We got a lot of needs. So what's the biggest need on offense right now for the Raiders? If I were to do it, this is how I would break it down on offense, our top 5 biggest needs. The first need is obvious quarterback, and it is. It's the biggest need that we have. At number 2, I'm going to put offensive guard because in my mind, JPJ's the starting center. Dylan Parham's the starting guard. We don't have that other starting offensive guard spot because I don't think Andre James is going to be around, and I think JPJ is going to be the center. Wide receiver, very important. Running back, very important. Because Colton Miller is still under contract and what we have in DJ Glaze at right tackle, I put offensive tackle at number 5. Let's go to another player that I think would be a good fit with Chip Kelly. It's Mekhi Becton. And Becton was a prospect that I loved when he was first coming out of Louisville, and he's coming off a career year after being switched to offensive guard. I don't know how many people remember when I was saying back when Becton was first getting looked at by Louisville, I said if this is a player that I would go out and get, but I would put him at guard because of just how big he is. And I know that he was a disaster with the New York Jets. He was a disaster. But over the past 2 seasons, 31 starts, he's been able to show that he's healthy, but he's been able to stay healthy because he's been able to stay in shape. There was a point where he was pushing 400 bills. And, when I think of 400 bills, a big offensive lineman like Becton, don't get me wrong, there's a certain guy by the name of Trent Brown that makes me almost skip a beat a little bit, and that was somebody that I couldn't stand, Trent Brown. There is risk in Becton, no doubt about it. There is some risk in it. And to me, I don't think that you're going to go out and sign Trey Smith and Becton, but I'm somebody that really does truly believe that you need to invest in the offensive line. So if you don't want to spend big on Trey Smith, that's okay. Well, then I would say let's roll with a guy like Mekhi Becton, and also we can go a little bit and be a little bit risky. He was the 21st out of 135 offensive guards according to the PFF, and it's somebody, again, who is a great run blocker. He also can play right guard, so you could potentially shift Dylan Parham over to the left side. But when I think of great offensive lines, I think of people that I would want to put together. The physicality of Jackson Powers-Johnson and the physicality of Mekhi Becton, you know where you're going to run behind when it's 3rd down and 1? When it's 4th down and 1, when it's 4th and inches in the biggest spots, you're going to run behind those 2 guys, and that's a very important role. Think about all the first downs Philadelphia is able to pick up. Some of these teams that have these big-bodied offensive lines, that's important. Becton also can potentially play tackle. He was brought in to be a right tackle, so hypothetically speaking, let's say the Raiders really spend big. You go out and get a Trey Smith, you put him at guard, and then if Becton ends up beating out DJ Glaze, Glaze could be a good backup rotation tackle who also gives you a little bit of offensive flexibility as well. This guy is a mauler in the run game. The most important thing about Becton is if you sign him to a contract, it's got to be incentive-based. If you give him a bunch of guaranteed money, that's going to make me nervous, and I'll change my opinion because he hasn't been able to show that when he's paid, he can be healthy. You give him an incentive-based contract, and I'm okay with that one being a very high incentive-based deal because when he's motivated, he's a hell of a football player, and I think he fits exactly what this running game is going to try to do. Let's go to the final name here, and this is going to be the one that's probably the most controversial. But you know what? Quarterback is the biggest need for the Raiders, and to me, the best free agent quarterback pick that you could pair with Chip Kelly, it's Sam Darnold. And I would say that he's the top free agent quarterback on the market, and I'm not going to lie to you. It scares the hell out of me paying Sam Darnold. It scares me to no end because Darnold does make me nervous, but he was able to throw for 35 touchdowns last season. And if you're somebody that believes in Chip Kelly, Greg Olsen, our quarterback coach, John Spytek, Tom Brady, and if you believe in what this organization is doing this offseason, I believe in Pete Carroll. I believe in what the Raiders are doing this offseason. If you're also sitting at home going, I believe in what the Raiders are doing this offseason, then I think Sam Darnold is a great option. I get it. He struggled in the final 2 games of the season. But what Spytek's been able to do for Baker Mayfield, what Tom Brady was able to do with Spytek, what Pete Carroll was able to do with Geno Smith, what he was able to do with Russell Wilson, if I was Sam Darnold, this is where I would want to go. And because I know that the Raiders are going to add a quarterback this offseason, I also think that whoever they add in the offseason is going to be the Raiders quarterback for definitely 1 year, but then even potentially 2 seasons. And because I know that, also on top of the Darnold thing, I'm almost a little bit intrigued if he would take a little bit of a discount to come work with Chip Kelly, Tom Brady, Spytek, because when you work with all those big-time names, that also provides value for Darnold. So if you're sitting here going, why should the Raiders target Darnold? Chip is not going to want to work with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. He didn't take the highest-paid OC job to work with any quarterback on this team. The Raiders also didn't offer Chip Kelly the most money that an OC's ever been offered if they were comfortable with their quarterback position. They wanted an OC, they're going to go out and work for somebody. And because of all the quarterbacks that our organization has been able to work with, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold, the QB that just threw for 35 touchdowns. If they can make Baker into something, why can't they make Sam Darnold into something? Maybe it's not the best option for people out there, but I think it's the option that makes the most sense for the Chip Kelly offense that just won a natty with Ohio State. But if they want to go with something totally different, then go with something totally different. That's the best part about Kelly. If you want to check out the top 5 quarterbacks that I got, that I think that the Raiders could sign this offseason, you can go check it out. Mariota ain't going to be on that list. And I'm going to tell you this, it's between Sam, Justin, and then one other QB, I think, for being the most likely. Though, you could maybe see a trade for Geno based off of some rumors that I've heard. But at the same time, I'd rather sign Sam Darnold than trade for Geno Smith. One more time here are the top 5 free agents for Chip Kelly on the offensive side of the football. I got 2 offensive linemen on there because I believe in investing in the O-line, and that's where I want to go. Chris Godwin makes this because of all of his connections. After that, though, I'm telling you this, the top 2 names on this show are Trey Smith, Chris Godwin. We can figure it out from there on out. If you want to send this to all your buddies, just make sure that you tag me on Instagram and Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. But I guarantee you this offseason is going to be really, really wild. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're tuned in because we're going to be live all free agency long. What up, Skin Bone? Great free agency vids. What percentage do you think that they can retain? Of all the free agents, out of the 28 names, I would say, and you're probably just thinking of more of the unrestricted free agents. So out of the total 28 free agents, I'll say the Raiders probably bring back 10 of those guys. And I would say 4 of those are probably the unrestricted free agents. And if I was a betting man on the unrestricted free agents, I would say Caleb Chasen. I would say Robert Spillane, Trevon Merrick. There's a part of me that wants to say Malcolm Koonce. I just don't know if it's going to happen. Then there's a part of me that wants to say Adam Butler. So we'll say those 5 players there. And then also, Jordan Meredith's going to come back. Isaiah Paul-Mal's going to come back. There's another 2 or 3 names in there that they could also bring back as well. But it's not going to be a lot. And even all those names I just threw out there. I mean, you might only be able to pick 3 out of those unrestricted free agents that I mentioned. Steve-O. Why no love to Arizona wide receiver at 6? Because I don't know who the quarterback is. To me, as an organization, it doesn't make any sense to draft a wide receiver if you don't know what your quarterback is. If we, in the free agency, We go out and get a Trey Smith. We go out and sign a Sam Darnold. We go out and add a running back in free agency, and then we're sitting there on draft day going, man, we still need a receiver. Then I'm okay with that idea, right? Like, he's probably the best receiver in this year's class, and I say probably, he is the best receiver in this year's class. I just don't mention his name because we saw last season when you have an unbelievably talented receiver in Devontae Adams, but nobody can get him the ball, it just doesn't really do you any good. Just like when you have a really good running back in Josh Jacobs, but your offensive line stinks, it just doesn't do you any good. That's why I don't talk about him, because I'm not drafting a wide receiver if I don't have a QB. Jersey boy, I don't get the Darnold hype. He's been trash or irrelevant everywhere he's been, but has a career year as on Kevin O'Connell-led, stacked Vikings team, and now everyone wants him. Here's the thing, though. I don't think it was a stacked Vikings team. That was the team that was projected to finish dead last in that division. You go back, you look at a lot of people that had projections on where the Vikings would finish. I bet you their over-under total was probably somewhere around 6.5, 7.5 wins. Like, people did not expect a lot. I know they had Justin Jefferson. Totally get it. But, you know, these are probably the same people that said Baker Mayfield's never going to be a good quarterback. The same people that probably said Geno Smith's never going to throw for 30 touchdowns in a season. It happens when you have the right system in place. And to me, the Raiders have the right system for a journeyman quarterback. They've been able to prove to get it right. And I know the Raiders haven't been able to prove to get it right, but everybody that they brought in, all signs point to a journeyman QB. And I think that that's the hope around Darnold. John Gruden drafting Colton Miller, a steal or a bust. My first question ever marks 6 years tomorrow. Really? That's crazy. I mean, I know at the time, I can remember Tom didn't love the pick because Miller out of UCLA, 15th overall. We didn't love the pick because I actually want to say I gave it a C+ grade. It was good. It wasn't a slam dunk pick. I mean, now, though, it's an A. And I don't know how you pick anything else. When you're able to keep your starting left tackle, your left tackle, and all the changes that we've had from head coaches, the quarterbacks, to offensive coordinators, you know, there's a reason why Miller has stayed around. It's because he's been that guy. Let's go to Nabman. What up, dude? Final super chat here on today's show. Between Sanders and Ward, what meaningful games have they ever won? Asking for a friend. If Sanders doesn't have Travis, then what? Obviously, he doesn't put up as good of numbers. Travis Hunter definitely helps. And what meaningful games? There's a lot of meaningful games for them. Yeah, and Chugs just said it. Stetson Bennett won a natty, where and I think sometimes, like, we can't just look at what guys did in college. You got to look at, like, what they could be in the NFL. And that's, like, a big misconception where Will Howard won the national championship. Do you think Will Howard's a better quarterback than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Like, I don't. And it's something that's, sure. But here's the thing, man. Every game that Shedeur Sanders played with that amount of, you know, attention around him, those are meaningful games. Cam Ward transferring schools, going to the U. Those are meaningful games. And you're talking more from a playoff standpoint. But I'm not going to I mean, they're not going to, like, those teams weren't good enough to get there.
What did Patrick Mahomes do at Texas Tech?
True.
I mean,
I don't know. Like, again, I don't remember Mahomes all that well in college. And you can't get every situation. I think the problem with sometimes fans is they want to be able to check off every box, right? They want to check off every box to make sure that it's safe and secure. There's a risk. When you take a quarterback, I don't think there's more of a position that's a bigger risk than QB. And it's a lot about trusting the staff you have. I would almost make an argument it's more important to have a great staff in place to develop QBs than to have a talented quarterback itself. Because you could have an extremely talented quarterback, but if he's in the wrong system, it's not going to work.
Navman, Patrick Mahomes went 5-7 his last year at Texas Tech. So,
to me, I believe in our coaches right now. I believe in Chip Kelly. I believe in Pete Carroll. I believe in John Spytek, Tom Brady. I believe in Greg Olson. Because I believe in those guys, I'm okay with taking a project player because I believe that project is going to end up getting done. Trevor, draft Genty, get Fields and DK, build in the draft. I like this idea. Like, if you told me right now the Raiders are going to draft Ashton Genty, what do you want them to do? I would say go out and get Justin Fields. Go out and get Justin Fields, run offense the way, like, the Ravens kind of ran their offense, where it's a run first, but you can also throw it if you need to be able to throw it. Spread them out, get some players with some speed, some athletic ability. that can stretch the field, and DK is also not afraid to block, right? Like, you go out and get a DK Metcalf, you also add somebody like Matt Collins. That's a physical freaking team that people, I'm telling you, are going to be like, in December, January, that's a team that a lot of people are not going to want to play. All right, y'all, those are all the Super Chats. Those are all the questions. Here's what we're going to do. If you're a real one, make sure that subscribe button is clicked the next time that you're going to see Jeremy Chugs and I live here on the Raiders Report. Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday. Though, maybe we go live on Thursday. You want to go live on Thursday? I was going to say, our schedule this week is kind of wild. TBD on Thursday, and I say that only because we have about 8 guys down in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Shout out to, seriously, I put this, put it on Twitter the other day. If you guys want Super Bowl coverage from, like, our team, Chase is down there, Trizzy's down there, Jake is down there, Sperry's down there, Tyler's down there. We have like 8 different people that are down there covering the Super Bowl, and they're all worth a follow, absolutely. So our schedules are kind of crazy. I will let you all know if I have the ability on Thursday, but no matter what, I will be live 100% Super Bowl Sunday.
Everybody besides Tyler Jones.
Yeah, he's down there covering the Chiefs. So if you don't want Chiefs stuff, maybe Tyler's the only one that you don't follow. Everybody else, though, is killing it. Seriously, y'all, appreciate everyone that tuned in today. Had a lot of fun discussing a lot of this stuff. I will see y'all definitely on Super Bowl Sunday. You better be here. Let you know, TBD on Thursday live. We got to figure out, I think, some of our Super Bowl schedule stuff. From me, from Jeremy Chugs, to all the real ones out there, peace out.